Welcome to Newsfile. The president has been telling us about the fight against Galamsey and how he intends to continue that crusade. But in the meantime, he makes an admission publicly for the very first time that his own people, as in the NDC, are involved in Galamsey. Question: so what? The economy, is it resilient enough to withstand external shocks as bombs are being thrown to destabilize oil tanks with a clear threat to the economy? The president says the economy is resilient. It is not as it was that saw COVID and the Ukraine-Russia war deal with it the way it did. So pensioners lost their funds. Then there is the job crisis. The recruitment processes for the security services. The president says, let's increase the number. We want to recruit from 20,000 to 40,000. How exactly is that the solution over the next years? It is not as if the 5,000 that is being recruited now will be increased to 20,000 or 40,000. The government has been borrowing to pay salaries of public service workers. How does that work? We'll be right back to deal with the vexed matters. I'm Samson, Lardy, Anyenini. You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It is your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. And to Samson's stake, the recruitment extortion, a harvest of impunity. It's been exactly 6 years since Straj delivered a scathing 24-page indictment against the Ghana Immigration Service. That 2020 decision, the second of its kind, was not a mere suggestion or a polite observation. It was a clear, authoritative, and legally binding declaration that the practice of selling recruitment vouchers to tens of thousands of desperate, jobless youth is illegal, unconstitutional, and unconscionable. Yet, here we are in 2026, and the harvest of impunity continues unabated. This persistence represents a triple breach of the law that remains ignored. First, and as Straj observed, there is the blatant lack of parliamentary approval under the Public Financial Management Act and the laws governing fees and charges. No public institution has the legal power to levy a fee on a citizen without a formula specifically approved by the representatives of the people in Parliament. These recruitment fees are, by every legal standard, unlawful. And second, we see the continued violation of the financial regulations regarding internally generated funds. And Straj pointed that out. The law is clear that money collected by state agencies must be lodged in the consolidated fund. Instead, these institutions continue to lodge the millions into commercial bank accounts and spend them at source. That's unlawful, that's illegal. And by doing so, they bypass the immediate oversight of the Controller and Accountant General. And finally, there is the fundamental principle of administrative law that a public body can only do what the law expressly allows. There is no law in Ghana that authorizes a security agency to sell the opportunity to serve one's country. Now let's consider the cold, hard numbers. These are the numbers that define the current exercise involving agencies under the Ministry of Interior. The recruitment targets 5,000 personnel only. Over 500,000 vouchers have been sold to hopeful applicants. This is not a recruitment exercise. It is a state-sponsored lottery where the house always wins and the players are the most vulnerable members of our society, our unemployed youth. When our state institutions open these portals, knowing the math is impossible, they are effectively taxing the poverty of the Ghanaian graduate to fund their administrative luxuries and per diems. Mr. President, your recent announcement of an increase in the number of recruits over a period is not the solution, nor does it address the core of the injustice we speak about today. Increasing the intake from 5,000 or over a period from 20,000 to 40,000 does not address the problem, does not cure the illegality of the fees or the unconscionable ratio of applicants who are invited to the small number of vacancies. Mr. President, you must rather demand and ensure that there is strict compliance with the orders and the solutions already proffered by Shraj when the Citizens Forum petitioned it in 2018 and it gave its judgment in 2020. We cannot continue to build the machinery of state on the sweat and tears of the jobless. If the state needs soldiers or officers, the state must fund the process of finding them. We demand a complete and immediate halt to this upfront sale of vouchers. We must move to a controlled recruitment model where portals are free and automatic cutoffs are implemented. This is a no-brainer, and Shraj saw it. You open the portals. If you have 5 people applying for one space, you can cut it at that point. Once a reasonable multiple of the vacancies is reached, the system must automatically shut down to stop the limitless sale of false hope. If the government insists on cost recovery, let that cost be deducted from the first or second month's salary of the successful applicants. How is this difficult to do? Let them go through the process. If they are successful, those who are successful take it from their first or second salary. There is no moral or legal justification why what is happening today must continue to happen. To the heads of these institutions, Shraj has spoken. The law is the law, and the youth are watching. And that is Samson's stake. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. So today, the 2 important issues that will engage our attention will be the questions of the potential economic shocks. Is it potential? It's not potential. It's real. That as Israel and the US continue to strike Iran's, gas fields, we will definitely take the hit for it. Because as you can see, on the world market, crude is rising and rising. And that definitely has implications for us. Transportation cost affects everything. And once fuel prices go up, that's what you are going to see. And of course, the job crisis that we currently have in our country, where, as the finance minister announces, we are borrowing to pay salaries. Yes, borrowing to pay salaries. And guess what? We're borrowing to pay salaries of people who sometimes don't get any job to do in their offices. Yeah, simply paying their salaries, and they are not working. Ajay Kufieje of our research desk joins us to take us through some of the numbers as far as these matters are concerned. And when we are done with these two major issues, of course, Galamsey, which is an existential threat, we'll deal with it as well, because the president talks about the fact that he says our own people are involved. People are saying it's good that at least the president makes this admission, but then what? So the economy is strong enough to withstand global shocks. Is the president right?
Well, that's the big question we've all been trying to, it's a big hypothesis. We're trying to test whether the president is accurate by actually saying that the economy is strong enough to actually withstand any global shocks. And he mentioned that where we are today is relatively better than we used to be about 3 to 4 years ago. So what we are going to do is to take the three crises we've witnessed in the last 5 years and see how the Bank of Ghana actually assess the crisis, their confidence in the economy, and then their judgment through their monetary policy rate decision that they took around that time. And interestingly, all the crises we've witnessed in the last 5 years have actually been in the first quarter of the year, usually around February and March. So definitely that's where we're going to start from. So we'll start from the crisis of COVID-19, that pandemic in 2020. What was the Bank of Ghana's assessment? The reason why we are using what the Bank of Ghana is saying is that they have access to every data in this country. They sit every quarter to assess the health of the Ghanaian economy, and based on that, release what they call the monetary policy rate. And the confidence they have in the economy influences the policy direction around that time. And so let's start from COVID-19 and what the Bank of Ghana actually said about that pandemic. And this is what the committee, when they were done with the assessment and the governor had to announce the decision they're taking, they said that, well, the bank's internal assessment shows that the pandemic could impact Ghana through a number of channels. So they are admitting that the COVID-19 pandemic was a big threat to the economy of Ghana and could actually affect the economy through a number of channels, not just one channel, but the Bank of Ghana admitting that a number of them. They also want to say that the forecast for inflation is expected to remain within the target band for the next quarter. And so Bank of Ghana, although saying that, well, we have the crisis which is likely to affect the economy, we believe that inflation is within target. And they went ahead to say that based on these factors, we are going to go ahead to ease the monetary policy rate by cutting it 150 basis points to 14.5. And that rings a bell because around this same time, we've taken a similar decision and the policy rate is around this number, 14%. During the pandemic, it was 14.5. And it was because the Bank of Ghana believed they had enough headroom from inflation to actually come out and do this announcement. But what did they really base their arguments on, and how are the economic indicators looking like around March and February of 2020? And so let's look at these numbers, very important, not just these indicators, but these are very important. And for you to say that the economy will be able to withstand shocks, these four, not just them alone, not just these four, but at least these four must be in a very, very good situation, which is inflation. And during COVID, the reason why the Bank of Ghana was very confident enough to cut policy rates around that time was because inflation was single digits, 7.8%. So have in mind that we've had single digits inflation before.
Right.
And around COVID period, 7.8, the target was 8% plus or minus 2. And you heard the Bank of Ghana governor saying that, well, we believe that in the medium term we'll still be within that target.
Except that today the inflation is
better.
It's lower.
But
or
it's
better.
3.3, yeah.
Right.
We'll get to that. But import cover around that time in months was 4.8 months of import cover, relatively higher than the IMF benchmark of 3 months, right? Debt to GDP ratio, 63%, relatively better than the benchmark of, let's say, 70%. Cedi depreciation against the dollar. Around that time, there was an appreciation of the cedi. In the first quarter, 3.7%. And based on this, the Bank of Ghana was very confident enough to say that the economy was strong, although there were shocks coming from the pandemic. They went ahead to cut policy rate. And we are seeing the same thing panning out in 2026, where the governor is saying that, well, although what is going on in the Middle East has the tendency to affect us, we still believe that the buffers we build domestically is enough to actually help us within this period to actually cut rates. So a similar situation happening during the COVID period, but we all know that we projected that the COVID pandemic wasn't going to take that long, but we all know what went ahead and how the economy suffered, months and years after, where this single-digit inflation was actually eroded. We went as high as 54% in 2022. So definitely we've had these good numbers before, 4.8 months of import cover, very good. Now let's look at the crisis of 2022, the Russia-Ukraine war, and this is a bit similar to what is happening now. Let's see how the Bank of Ghana assessed the situation, whether they had confidence around that time in the economy. And this was the governor anyway when he was presenting the MPC release.
Similar, but the level of effects,
it's not the same. It's not the same because, you're looking at the Middle East, which actually accounts for about 20% of the world crude that we consume. This is Russia, Ukraine, although it was affecting, commodity prices and even fuel. It's similar, but definitely not the same as you put it. And the governor says that the global environment has changed drastically. I needed to focus on this word, change drastically, because the same word will be used, when the governor was presenting the MPC on Wednesday. And since January 2022, he says that meeting, they said that reflecting a new geopolitical event that have further heightened uncertainty. So governor admitting that there were uncertainties there. Did they have confidence in the domestic buffers? What they said was domestic growth conditions. And this is where,
fairly strong.
Fairly strong. To use the word fairly strong means that you definitely are aware that your buffers around that time wasn't really strong. So they went ahead to use the word fairly strong. And let's look at it. Crisis of pandemic, we cut policy rate. But this time around, Bank of Ghana decided to hike the policy rate by 250 basis points to 17%, signaling that all wasn't so well. Why? Because if you look at these indicators around that time, inflation was 15.7%. Import cover, not so, far away from the pandemic level, 4.3 months of import cover, but debt to GDP ratio was 80.1%. You had cedi in that first quarter had depreciated by 14.6%. So there was no way the Bank of Ghana was going to have that confidence to say that, well, I'm going to drop the policy rate. They hiked it, and we all know what happened. We had to seek the IMF for support. Now, let's look at 2026, right? And Samson, this is similar word that the governor actually used on Wednesday. He says that the global environment has since changed drastically. Remember that same word, that same phrase,
just pick the template, I
suppose. Exactly, the template was used. But this time around, it's a bit different because the governor then went ahead to say that rising geopolitical tensions in the Middle East have deepened uncertainties in the external sector. This is actually the uncertainties we are facing.
Like Addison, he spoke about the uncertainties.
Exactly.
He's also spoke
But look at what he's saying about the domestic economy. He says that favorable domestic macroeconomic conditions. This time around, we are not seeing fairly strong. We are seeing favorable domestic macroeconomic conditions and high prevailing real interest rates provide scope to ease the policy rate further. And this is the first time we are having an energy crisis that we have decided that we are cutting policy rate by 150 basis points to 14% in terms of the policy rate. Why? Because this time around, look at the indicators. Samson. Inflation is now 3.3. Our medium target is 8% plus or minus 2. We have a big headroom over there, 3.8 months. So if the president is saying that, well, we are not at the, at the stage where we used to be during the COVID period or the Russia-Ukraine war, he is talking about the headroom that this 3.8 is giving you, 3.3 is giving you, because our target is 8% plus or minus 2, right? But we are doing 3.3 below target. import cover in terms of months. This time around, we are doing 5.8 months of import cover. Debt to GDP ratio during the Russia-Ukraine war was
almost 3 months better than the previous situation.
Okay. And if you look at the debt to GDP ratio during the Russia-Ukraine war was 80.1. Now we are doing 45.3. Cedi depreciation or appreciation currently still depreciating anyway, but 3.9% as against 14.7 we saw during the Russia-Ukraine war. But hold on, do we have to be worried? Because just 2 weeks, although we've seen all these beautiful indicators, look at where fuel prices are going. You see diesel going to 14 cedis, 98 pesos. This is oil anyway. If you look at petrol, 12 cedis, 28 pesos. So within just 2 weeks, you can see that stratospheric rise in terms of fuel prices. Do we have vulnerabilities? Certainly yes, because the economy that we experience and the good numbers that I painted to you is simply because we're getting so much from gold, exports. Just look at this chart. In the first 2 months of, this year, about 68% of our export revenue is coming from where? Gold. Right? You see, cocoa taking about $956 million. You can see the share, but gold significantly is more than half of our export revenue. But do we have to worry if we are building a whole economy around gold? Why? Because we looked at gold prices. Something you can see there. Well, we've moved from the highs of
it's interesting. All the three other commodities that you reference, exports, commodities that you reference, put their earnings or exports within the period together, you get about 1.something billion. But gold alone is doing over 4 billion.
Exactly.
So that's
68% of that export revenue. And now, why we possibly might be worried is because as the war prolongs, we all know the trade-off between the dollar index and gold prices, right? Dollar index going up, gold prices coming down, 4,490 per ounce, and that's what per ton. That's what we are seeing currently. And do we have to worry? I simply do not know. Those who have knowledge about this issue will look at. My job is to tell you about the data anyway. This is where we are heading towards in terms of gold prices, and we are building a whole economy trying to achieve 15 months of import cover significantly, not just from gold anyway, but a significant component of that achievement or that target is expected to come from gold. Now, moving away from the economy, in fact, still on the economy anyway, the president made some remarks during this week about how he wants the targets of the security recruitment to be increased from 20,000 to 40,000, right?
More than 4 years.
That's about 100%, right? In 4 years. Then you have the president coming out to say this, and the finance minister in the same room with the president, when they were trying to speak to Labour, made this big revelation that, well, if you look at our revenue kitty and tax revenue at the moment, we spend about 44% of that to actually pay workers, and that is really above the ECOWAS benchmark. Then I was surprised. After all this revelation, the finance minister went ahead to say that we'll still go ahead and recruit more people into the public sector. Our checks showed that, well, the finance minister revealed that they had to borrow 17 billion cedis in 2020 to be able to pay workers. Government domestic debt in 2025 actually went up by some 24%, 24 billion cedis. And this 17 billion we are seeing is about 70% of that total amount of debt we added to our domestic debt stock in 2025. So it simply means that if you're looking at the quantum of debt we added to our domestic debt stock in 2025, about 70% came because we had to borrow about 17 billion cedis to pay workers. What do we know about the public sector in terms of the numbers? As of 2023, we know that this is approaching 1 million anyway. It's about 959,120. And in terms of the wage bill, this is the finance minister's headache, because the wage bill has, within a period of about a decade, 2016 to about 2026, has gone up by a significant component, moving from 14 billion. In 2016, we're spending 14 billion cedis to actually pay workers. Now we are paying 90.7 billion. And within just a year has gone up by 19%. And this is the biggest worry of the finance minister. Well, I mean, the president says that go ahead, add more 20,000, additional 20,000 to the recruitment for the security service. And we are looking at the budget for interior and defense. It's about 23.4 billion cedis for 2026.
Professor HPC Prempe has asked a question.
Yeah.
Where else in the world do you know about retirement of salary as your pension?
Where people retire on their salary.
And he feels that is also one of the places we need to deal with.
Exactly.
Because we're abusing it in this country. People are retiring on their salary.
And possibly the reason why you're seeing us moving from 14 billion cedis in 2016, just about 90.7 billion in terms of how much we are using to pay compensation of employees. And we've spoken about the defense and interior, the security services and our army. Their budgets around combined budgets, 23.4 billion anyway this year. And we are spending about 90% of this budget, you know what, to pay workers. So you ask yourself, 23.4 billion, significant anyway, 90% going into payment of salaries. How much is it left to actually logistics, ammunition, whatever, right? And we are seeing the budgets of, going up significantly for both interior and defense. If you look at it from defense budget, for instance, this year significantly, we've increased it from 6.4 to about 10.8 after the crash. And we are saying that we're going to use about 300 million of that to actually retool the Ghana Armed Forces, right? 300 million Ghana cedis of that. You look at interior, for instance, we are spending about 150 million Ghana cedis of that to actually retool the fire service. But that budget has gone up by 10.7 billion to about 12.6. And in terms of this defense and interior, our check shows that both spend about 90% of their budgets on just salaries.
Interesting, and thank you very much. Intriguing, rather, very intriguing. But let's see how the government intends to manage this situation in the rather, conflicting disposition. You are broke, you don't have money. You're already paying low salaries. You are borrowing to pay those salaries. And you say, I'm going to employ more. We'll be right back.
Nanami wajidie se enyoma ya toto no sa afi bakui ama ya economy na enya hoden enti wo yi a Israel ne Iran ne hwanhwa amokui nyame adom nti ya economy no ebetimi agina ewiase enyoma timisi to say ye wo ho COVID-19 baye echire Russia-Ukraine war wo ho na bibia ba se wa ma usika semu anye den a sa nyoma ne ba na ama economy na bofom enti ya stability ewie ye pese ye ma yesika sem ye den economy ne ye den se ne ba ya se hwan ni hwan na kontokwa se hwan na efu kontokwa the economy no benya honden na etimi astande sa shock no na mi wogidie se enyoma ya toto no sa afi bakui ama ya economy na enya honden enti wo yi a Israel ni Iran ni hwan amokui nyame adom nti the economy no ebetimi agina.
So simply put, what the president just said in Chi is that our economy is resilient. It will withstand the war by the US and Israel against Iran. But we're checking the figures. Will it work? We saw how Dr. Addison made similar comments at the time about the Russia-Ukraine war, and yet we plummeted to the situation we found ourselves in, and COVID made it terrible. So what lessons do we have to take from these? And here in the studio, Dennis Miracles Abuaje is Director of Communications, the Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia campaign, as Kwafu Hall is celebrating its 70th year, it's good to see that on the table there are as many as 4 alumni from Kwafu Hall.
While the founders are doing Jama.
And coincidentally, the other 2 are from the Mensa Saba Hall. So today is a UG competition. So Dennis Miracles Abuaji there, and by Dennis Miracles Abuaji is Dr. Kwabnayako Otu, Deputy Secretary General, Trades Union Congress, always speaking to us generously, explaining the matters to us via our virtual connection. But today he's live and colored. Good to see you, sir. Right. And Aluta Continua, I just discovered, is that what your shirt represents? You are in red.
I'm in red, yes.
Because Mwenya Breko. We should bring more people into the labor front.
Government told us it wanted to do that, and we couldn't resist that.
Okay. All right. Okay, so by him is Eric Adam Agbana, who is MP K2 North. The 2 of them are from Mensa Saba Hall. And also we have Fred Janku, development economist and associate professor at ISE, University of Ghana. He's still there. And Senyor Hosi, convener, One Ghana Movement, and trustee of the Ghana Coalition Against Galamsey. Thank you, gentlemen, for making time to join us. So, Fred, how much faith should we put on the president's comments? Seeing what you're seeing, and whilst US is saying the war should end now, the Iranians say, we will tell you when it ends. You don't dictate to us when it ends.
Well, I think that it's always important to, as I say, go back to the fundamentals, right? We're talking, the president is saying that the economy is more resilient now than before. Well, what does it mean for an economy to be resilient? Basically, it means that if an economy is resilient, it should be able to absorb shocks without large swings in key economic indicators, particularly your inflation rate, your exchange rate, and growth, right? And there are at least 3 things we have to look at as benchmarks. So number 1 is the shock absorption capacity of the economy.
Right.
Here you are talking about your fiscal space, your forex reserves, and your debt sustainability. On these 3, the president suggests, and as the data shows, that at least for reserves, we're at a better position than we were a couple of years ago. But in this same conversation is the issue of your fiscal space, which also determines how resilient you are. And our fiscal space is not looking good, right? Because you have a situation where your tax to GDP is still low, around 15%, and it's been so for some time. What it means is that your economy is not generating enough revenue. Okay, so even though your reserves are looking okay, gold looking okay, I think I saw that it's come down, the reserves, but at least you are in a good position, but your fiscal space is not looking good. All right, so the second one is your transmission mechanisms. How quickly does your shocks, and in this case we are talking about oil prices, transmit into your economy through inflation? And our own analysis has shown that when our fundamentals are quite weak, the transmission tends to be very fast, which means that, in fact, when you look at how fuel transmits into transportation, within 2 months, for about a 10% increase in fuel prices, you see inflation going up, food inflation going up to about 6%. So that's a quick transmission, right? And that tells you that your economy is vulnerable. So I would say that Ghana's economy is stabilizing, right? But I won't say it's resilient yet, because resilience is not just a short-term phenomenon. It's something that you build into the system over a long period of time. So we are not yet resilient, particularly depending on how long the crisis will last. And so I would say that stability is necessary, but it's not resilient. It's a step towards resilience. And at this point, I would say that our buffers, some of it are looking good, others are not looking great, and therefore we still should be worried. So the president is not wrong in comparing where we are to where we were some time ago, but it doesn't mean we are safe.
Like Isaac Kufieje just shared with us, he's also a farmer from Akwafuho. He just shared with us the figures comparatively that show that, as Doc has confirmed, we are in a far better place than we were when COVID and Russia-Ukraine hits. So why can we not be as hopeful as the president?
All right, so the president was speaking to a particular kind of public, but he was using very strong economic terms. We as students of the profession, we cannot speak like a politician. So we just have to be very real about it. I think that the president and the current government, they've done a great job in trying to stabilize the economy, considering where we were coming from. It was difficult. The macroeconomic fundamentals were extremely weak, and the path for growth was quite bleak. But they did chart a path, and I commend the central bank. The aggressive monetary policy actions, especially mopping up liquidity to help stabilize the currency, and that also yielding this transmission effect across inflation, has been phenomenal. And I think Isiama and Zach and the second deputy governor, the whole team, they should celebrate.
Matilda Asante,
fantastic. But all that has achieved us is stability.
Yeah.
It has actually laid the path for us to start building resilience and all that.
Yeah.
The key things you have in a resilient economy are not in our economy. Let's not kid ourselves. So there's a need for modesty about the progress that has been achieved. And let's also remember, in the very first year of Nanado's government,
right,
we also saw a certain level of recovery and stability, which
we just projected inflation at the time.
So, I mean, there was also a certain recovery. There was progress actually built on the back of the IMF interventions, TechPest fiscal consolidation. We've also had some pillars also built, which the current government built and actually re-engineered nicely, also on the back of what the MPP had done before. They created a mess. They tried to start correcting it. The current NDC government took it up and then re-engineered it and achieved what we didn't think was achievable in a year. Very few economists would have actually assumed that we'll be able to achieve what was achieved within a year. So the government has done great, but it has to be modest about its success.
Yeah.
We do not have resilience. A resilient economy requires a certain level of economic diversification, which we don't have. Your colleague who was running through your data earlier cited what? Gold, right?
Right.
Gold is accounting for 68% of our exports.
That's
and this is in nominal terms, all right? Not in, and even in real terms, it will be almost about the same impact, because we see real volumes of gold production going up. If there is a major shock and prices of gold today, which are at 4,500 thereabout, even after going to 5,600, almost 6,000 thereabout sometime last year. If they go back to the levels in 2024 and we go to 2,000 thereabout, it is going to be a major shock. We don't have the capacity to manage that kind of external shock. Again, because our economy is not diversified enough.
Okay.
But what we've done is to set the base for us to build the right pillars for transformation. And that is what I think has been missing. We are not seeing strong communication on production diversification, production investment driven more by the private sector. We don't have a very vibrant private sector. Credit to private sector is what at 22% of total banking assets. All right, so we have a problem, and that is where this is the time for, we seem to have quenched the fires. It is time for us to start building the house. And I'm not hearing the pathway to building the house. I'll be happy to hear more from my fellow farmer, Fred Janku. This is farmers' deal. You know, I mean, what the economic part, we have our ideas, but the finance minister has a lot of communication to do to show the path. You've seen a willing central bank to drive it with the right monetary policies for that growth. We need to see the fiscal policies that would unlock real production in our country. And again, go back to Baumia. It should be production and not what? Borrowing, right? I mean, even though they didn't deliver it in their time, that theory is not wrong. Production is what is required to transform our economy.
Interesting. So now I bring in Dennis. At the time when we are making the comparison, 2017, Dr. Ernest Addison's regime, at the time we're also put in a position to have similar fears. We're talking inflation single digit, 7.8, import cover was 4.8, debt to GDP ratio 36%, among other CD, depreciation or appreciation 3.7, and then we make a comparison with today, right? So yes, at the time, within the entire period, as in 2017 to 2025, that's what I just referred to, but the Russia-Ukraine war and the shock that it brought, if you look at what it did, then spiral inflation to 15 or 15.7%, import cover was still around 4.3, just a little bit of a reduction. Then the debt to GDP ran up to 0.1%. And the CD depreciation or appreciation at 14.6. Compared to today, where a CMI is confident, we're looking at inflation 3.3%, import cover 5.8, debt to GDP 5.3%, CD depreciation appreciation, we're talking about 3.9%. Do you not think that the president has a real basis to be as hopeful?
Okay, Council, I mean, I think I learned this in my first year at Enterprise Group when I started working with them as a young corporate guy. When you go for your Monday meetings, they tell you hope is not a strategy. Hope has never been a strategy. If you hire somebody to work for you, and he tells you that I am hoping, fire him, because he's not telling you anything. I think the president's statement is mainly a very politically convenient, it's a politically convenient statement that is mistaking the calm after the storm to be strength enough to weather the next one. So we went through a very difficult period, and we should not mistake it. I'm glad we're even having this conversation today, because now we can discuss 2022 proper. We started January 2022 with dollar at about 6 cedis. We ended the year with dollar somewhere in double figures. At some point, we even lost track. June, July 2022, we're checking the dollar rate every hour. It was at some point like a fun pack on social media. You go the next minute is 10 cedis, you come the next minute is 11 cedis. There was a crisis. There is no way anybody in good faith that believes in God, that fears God and the devil, can tell us that 2022 was normal and that everything that happened in 2022 was as a result of a certain group of persons' mismanagement. Surely, there were things that were outside their control. Indeed, if certain things were in place at the time, the economy would have been able to withstand those things better than it did. So no doubt about that. Absolutely no doubt about that. That notwithstanding, we went through 2022 and 2023 without having a proper conversation around these issues because we allowed politics to take a major part of it. In fact, something that all of us have forgotten is that one of the things that knocked us almost into a coma was our debt to GDP. And we all should acknowledge that that debt to GDP situation was not merely because government of Ghana went to borrow too much at the time, but also a lot to do with the crisis that our currency suffered as a result of the external shocks, that at some point our debt was made up of 40% or so interest exchange rate differentials. That you owed so much, but because your currency had gotten really, really bad, it's, shot up your debt in dollar terms, and that affects your situation on the international market. But all these conversations were ignored. So sometimes when you sit down, if you don't take care, you may sound very unpatriotic with our current situation and say that, it's good we are all seeing that external shocks have very significant impact on our economy. Now the point here is this. If the president says we are resilient, what is he pointing at? Because, Council, these macroeconomic figures you are mentioning have nothing to do with the external pressures that are coming. This is basically had to do with how you are looking now. But how you are looking, is it enough to survive what is coming? There are two different things. You are stepping out to a party. You've picked your best clothes. But when you go out, you're going to meet Edem Agbana and Senyo Hosi and Co. Is your clothes enough to match them? Yours is the best in your wardrobe. But they are coming with a bigger, better option than yours. And those are the conversations that we must have. For me, this is the fourth time I'm saying here on your show this year, from last year to now, that it's time for the NDC government to step back a bit. There is now calm after the storm, and answer certain very important questions and tell us what the solutions they have for us. Number one, what was your diagnosis of the Ghanaian economy? And since you came to office, what has been your prognosis? What has been the specific interventions that you have put in place to address these diagnoses? Otherwise, do you know what I think? The NDC government is basically leading this country. You know, when you go and drop yourself in the sea, when we were kids, I was in Agona Swedru. Sometimes we travel to Windy Bay Beach. When the storm is coming, you do this. They taught us that you cross your fingers like this. Then you enter. Cancel when you enter. By the time you come out, Adam would, understand this. You will find yourself somewhere, but you don't really know where you are going. But what you know is that if you cross your fingers well, you won't go in. It will bring you out. That is basically what I think we are going through. Because think about it. These macroeconomic indicators, since we went to IMF in 2023, have been improving. They have been improving. In fact, between 2023 and 2024, our inflation that went all the way to 54% had dropped to 23%. So clearly, anybody that is doing an objective analysis can tell you that, well, looking at how it moved from 54 to 23, we're already on a certain pedestal. Don't forget that all these improved macroeconomic indicators are on the back of an existing IMF program. So we don't even know how we are going to behave or act post the IMF program. This economy should survive for all of us, Council. What we went through in 2022 to 2023, nobody should go through that again. In fact, if you recall, the 2022 crisis is what led this country to begin to go into the gold buying, arrangement heavily. Because by mid-2022 or so, we had just 8 tons of reserves in gold. By end of 2024, we had 30 tons. It means that the country learned something, that the shocks that came for which we could not survive, we had to put other interventions in place, and then the gold came. Today.
And on that point, you had asked, what has the government done?
No,
you know that there has been a deliberate policy in the gold area.
I would never do that. I'm one of the people in opposition that have always insisted that I will never take the credit of the improved macroeconomic indicators from the government. In fact, if I do that, I will be contradicting myself, because I insist that the improved macroeconomic indicators is as a result of a lot of things that this country had put in place post-2022. The governor of Bank of Ghana then, under the MPP, said it, that even in 2024, if he wanted to bring dollar to 8 cedis, he could. And indeed, he could have done it.
He wouldn't have been able to sustain it.
Please, you let me make one.
He wouldn't have been able to sustain it. It's not
Because he had enough gold to do exactly what this government is doing.
That would just be for 2 months.
Oh, I beg you. It's okay. Even if it was 3 months. You understand? So somebody could have done it for 2 months.
But you know, there's a little difficulty, people appreciating, especially you, the politicians, when you communicate. Because within 2017, 2018, 2019, when Akufo-Addo was touting the economic, figures, macroeconomic figures, how we're doing well. We got a single, digit inflation and so on. Our import cover was also good at the time. The NDC was minded to remind you that you had come to inherit an IMF program, which they had done. And they had put things in place to get you into that, trajectory. Perfect. But you will not accept it.
Perfect.
Today you are saying you took us to an IMF program that is keeping the economy in the trajectory that it is. So we should acknowledge that.
On that argument, stick to that argument. But the MPP government at the time said that, you know what? In addition to all the things that are going on, for us to be resilient and have our fundamentals right, the Ghanaian economy has one major problem: lack of local production. That we are too import dependent. So in our view, the way to deal with this fundamental challenge is to boost our production. Let's put some investment in private sector to increase industries, increase manufacturing, reduce production. So at least, whilst these temporary measures are keeping us afloat, we'll be able to have a long-term, way out of this.
Therefore,
so it brings me to the question: whilst the government is touting all these things, can they show us specifically the things that are being put in place or have been put in place? Because see, there's a difference between saying we are becoming resilient from we are resilient.
Exactly.
The government's point now is that they are resilient.
That's wrong.
I tell you everything that I believe in. For you to tell this Ghanaian economy is resilient, you must promise me that you are doing 80% production here. Otherwise, you are not anywhere close to even opening your eyes in times of a crisis. Listen, Council, any 10 cedis that you hold in this country, 8 cedis goes back to dollar. It's 80-20. If I dash Senior Hosi 10 cedis right now, he's going to buy items, 8 of which are coming from abroad.
Just from an economic perspective, just for correction.
So, no, you let me
it's
land.
Not correct.
Let me land, beg you. I don't want to lose my thought process. You understand? Whatever it is, a lot of the money that we receive goes back into importation. And so if you come and tell me that you are resilient, and yet the things that are happening in places where you trade with, you have no control over. You are basically either misleading us, or you are setting yourself up again for another future attack, which you would try to run away from. See, this government has made so many statements, both from opposition and in government, that whenever you bring it up, we play their videos to them, and you see them running away from it. And I don't see why the president should put himself in such a situation. Even worse is when his own governor is contradicting him. The governor was clear.
Contradicting him on what?
The governor was clear that the Iran war could easily affect some of the macroeconomic indicators that we are enjoying now.
But the governor has also said that we have the domestic situation. Let me look for his own words. Yes, fairly favorable domestic conditions that we're going to put us in. What he actually said, in a high situation to where he said favorable domestic macroeconomic conditions and high prevailing real interest rates provide scope to ease the policy rate further. So he was looking at this
Contradictions
situation.
Continue.
Yeah.
Contradictions continue. Locking themselves in a tight corner continue. Listen, today, as we sit here, if we wake up tomorrow morning and dollar is $2,000, this economy is finished. Zero. As we speak now, a resilient economy cannot even pay salaries. A resilient economy has over 70,000.
Did you mean to say gold or you said dollar is?
No, gold. I said if gold should drop today,
okay,
to $2,000.
All right.
Everything they are mentioning is finished. It's gone. Don't forget, all the macroeconomic indicators you are mentioning, they've all been anchored on the gold buying program. All of it. And it's as a result of you hoping that the external factors with gold will become stronger. So again, you are not resilient. You are relying on the external factors. So again, it comes to support the fact that you have no strength should the external factors falter. Were we not in this country, when we told you here on this table that fuel prices have nothing to do with what this government has done, because if you look at everything they have done, it tells you that there is very little component that goes into the fuel price. No, we have brought, in fact, fellas came to argue here with me that when we came, fuel was 14, today is 9. I said, okay, no problem. If fuel was 14 when you came and today is 9, how is it that just 3 weeks? 3 weeks, 3 weeks, 3 weeks, 3 weeks of war. Look at what we are seeing. Russia-Ukraine has been running for almost about 2-3 years now. The world only adjusted, but its effect has never gone away. We came on the back of a COVID pandemic, and yet we refuse to allow the realities to be discussed, and we push the entire conversations into politics.
All right.
My point here, Council, is this. The president should take it easy. He's already won an election. He doesn't need to tell us anything to make us happy. He just has to work. What he's telling us is not true. It's not factual. The evidence on the ground doesn't show that we are resilient. He hasn't introduced a single thing to prove resilience.
When we had inflation at 7.8, Addison said we were in a position to take cushion over the problems. We have inflation at 3.3%. The president is saying we are resilient, and you say what he's saying is not true. I don't get the difference. I don't get what you're trying to say.
We stay in the Equafor. No, let me just end on that.
Thank you.
We stay in the Equafor for a reason. Listen, we all know what governments do or can do to keep certain indicators at where they are. Go and pick the government's own budget in 2025. They spent just 30%. 30%
okay.
of capital expenditure. Now, if you do that, your inflation can come to -1. Your inflation can come to -1 if you decide not to spend in the economy.
Right.
What happens is that there will be unemployment, there will be no production.
Adam, so the issue people flag is that if we look at our gold exports, we know gold is now the backbone of the economy. In the last year, gold alone posted how much? Over, is it 12 billion?
Yeah.
Yes, of export to cushion us. And between January and February,
just correction, the 12 billion you're talking about will be just the small scale, the gold.
Correct. Thank you. And
almost double that.
All right.
Will give you the total.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Now we are talking about January and February only, and gold's contribution is huge. I hope that we can show that pie chart again as Kofi presented it. And gold is accounting for 68% of our exports. If you take cocoa, oil, and the others, you find that if you put all their figures together, you're talking about 1.7 billion perhaps.
No, more than that.
It's more than that, right?
Almost to 1.9 something.
Right, correct. Because cocoa did 956 million. Okay, it's now on, so everybody can see that. So what you are being told is that if the shocks affect gold price, we're in problem. We're in trouble. We are doomed. Already, the oil tanks that are being bombed, we have seen, fuel prices spike.
Well, Samson, let me first say good morning to our cherished viewers and especially to the good people of Ketuno, and to thank them for allowing me to be with you this morning. I will join them later today. Samson, His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama was right when he said Ghana's economy is resilient. When you talk about a resilient economy, what we are saying is that the economy should be able to absorb external shocks. It does not mean that the external shocks will not have an impact on the economy, but the extent of devastation, and that is what the President spoke to check whether or not the economy is resilient. There are some basic fundamentals, and all the credible economic indicators and metrics point to one direction. They are all telling one story, which is that Ghana's economy since January 2025 is in a better position today than we inherited it
Not in question.
And it is important for us to state that fact. I listened to my brother Dennis, and I have heard the NPP and their communicators repeatedly ask the question of what is this that we have done to position the economy the way it is currently. And they talk about not spending, and it is just the global factors that are working in our favor, IMF and all of that. But Samson, there is a key aspect of the conversation that they often ignore, which is the fact that fiscal discipline in itself is a strategy.
It's a massive strategy.
It's a massive strategy. And so when you were in, yes, fiscal strategy is a strategy. Fiscal discipline. It's a strategy. When you look at your income, your revenue, you look at the resources that you have, and you take a massive decision, a disciplined position, not to engage in reckless spending, it itself is a strategy. And since 2017, one of the things that you can credit President Mahama and Dr. Atufo for is the fact that we can all say confidently that in terms of management of the economy, we are doing better. We are not spending recklessly. Yes, as I speak, Atufo may be even unpopular among some of his colleagues and some CEOs.
But you are supervised by the IMF.
We all know.
Do you really have the room?
The NPP.
Do you really have the room to be reckless in your spending?
Something.
Let me brief for you a bit from an economic perspective. 2 seconds. Samson, look at all the IMF projections where Atufo and the government reached way ahead of time. You can't take that out of them.
Exactly.
I've worked with Atufo before in his old life. It's a very fiscal. On the fiscal side, he's a very disciplined person. And he showed that. So that one, give them the credit. But they shouldn't also overrate their resilience.
No, I will get there. Samson. So, Samson, the IMF did not arrive on January 7, 2025. They've always been there. But under the NPP, the key question that must be answered is how many of the targets or the indicators they met. As we speak today, all the 5 reviews that the IMF has conducted since the NDC came into power, positive reviews. It tells you that the government of the day is doing something right.
Do you have an instance when the review under the NPP showed a negative result?
Yes. All the targets we have gone and we are doing better. We are even meeting the target.
2024 NPP was behind. Again, primary balance. There are a number of things they were behind. Give them credit. NDC has done well with their. That one
said a number of things. He spoke about the fact that President Mahama saying the economy is resilient, hope is not a strategy, and what have you. And he tried to share some data about what it means for economy to be resilient. Something in 2022, April and October, even in the middle of the crisis, I have here with me publications where Dr. Baumia said that the economy was resilient.
We did it.
They are here. I can show you. We have here October 2022. Dr. Baumia, in a speech at the launch of a policy at the Ministry of Education, said that the economy was resilient enough to accommodate more social interventions. And it is here, published by my journal online. And so when you say, no,
why are they not the same?
No,
they are the same, please.
Why are they not the same? He said the economy was resilient. No, we're talking about the resilience of the economy. We are discussing the economy. He said the economy was resilient.
So you social intervention.
But what is the difference? President Mahama says the economy is resilient. You have a problem with that. At the time that President Mahama is making this point, inflation is at 3.3%. At the time President Mahama is making this point, the debt to GDP ratio is about 45%. Meanwhile, under the NPP, at a point, even when the finance minister presented the budget, he was scared. He couldn't mention the debt to GDP ratio, if you recall, because at the time we had run into crisis to the extent that we were at, unsustainable levels. But today, 45%. And the government must be applauded for that. Again, at the time President Mahama makes this point, the exchange rate, which Dr. Baumia told us,
was such an important indicator of how strong the economy is. Today, the exchange rate is more stable.
The war is not
in fact, as we speak, the cedi depreciation, when all this crisis started, is just about 3.9%. And so, when you look at all the economic indicators, we have performed better and we are doing better.
That's true.
And so, how can Dr. Bawumia in 2022, I'm telling you, Dennis, in 2022, when we're in crisis, when inflation was about 54%, your candidate, then Vice President Dr. Bawumia, told the people of Ghana that the economy was resilient. Now you have a problem. So Dennis, even on the first, Dennis, even 1st January, Dennis, even 1st January 2024, even 1st January 2024, in his New Year address to the good people of Ghana, Dr. Bawumia stated that the economy was resilient. Look at the crisis that we were in. Now, how do you accept what Dr. Bawumia said in the middle of a crisis, and with the figures that we have today, you tell us that the economy is not resilient? Samson, you make mention.
I'm actually just looking at, a statement by Edu Bwai. He was Deputy Minister for Finance, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. In August of 2021, is it?
Yes, 2021.
Please read what he said. So you read what he said.
Ministry of Finance. History will show that Ghana was more resilient in a time of a global crisis. Edu Bwai. Accra, 25th August 2021. Charles Edu Bwai, Minister of State at the Ministry of Finance, has stated that the country's economy was stronger despite the pandemic, and history will show that the nation was more resilient during the global crisis than its neighbors, the river.
Thank you. Thank you. So I think we will not debate that anymore.
To be more resilient at the end of the day.
That's right.
Look, guys, you guys stop playing politics with Ghana. We are tired. Look, we are suffering. Back to the point. We are talking that job.
Please, let's hear Adam. Let's hear Adam.
I can actually share with you several other publications. When we were even in the middle of crisis, the commentary that the leaders of the country under Akufo-Addo,
you have the power now.
And
are we resilient?
Indeed, I believe that we are resilient because all the indicators show same. But Samson, you asked a very important question about the contributions of gold to the strength of the economy as we have it. Samson, at every point in time, one sector will contribute significantly to the economy. At a point, when you take the oil growth, contributions of oil out of our economy, we were actually growing in negative, which meant that at the time, oil was contributing more. What has the NDC government done? With the establishment of Gold Board, we realized that yes, we have the mineral resources. We've always had gold with us. How do we identify the lacuna in the space, take advantage of it, seal the loopholes, prevent smuggling of gold, prevent the selling, and ensure that we have an institution that truly is regulating the sector very well. So if today, through the efficiency of Sami Jemfi and his Gold Board, we are able to see a significant contribution of about 68% from the gold, I don't think that it is anything that we have to condemn. We have to celebrate because at the end of the day, gold is also our natural resource. What you achieve with Gold Board?
Every country thrives on something that they are competitive with. If ours is gold today, because today gold is very competitive in the global market, and we are able to manage how we manage the sector very well. You don't control the price. You don't control the price. You don't control the price. Neither do you control the price of cocoa. Neither do you do that for oil.
That's why
that is why diversification is important. So when oil is down, if gold can provide a needed buffer that you need to sustain the strength of your economy.
Adam, that is exactly the word you're using.
You're missing the
diversification.
Exactly.
Our economy, Samson, our economy is not adequately diversified for us to claim resilience. That's just the matter.
It's a point.
So you've done well with Gold Board.
I'm saying that the president is right. Something to conclude. The president is right in saying that the economy is resilient because the indicators are showing same.
No, the indicators are not.
Thank you.
So you've done well. We commend you.
We are
that one there. Take the praise for it.
Resilience. This one,
Take
the war
the praise
continue
for
for 3 months.
You've done well.
That is your prediction.
But it's time to diversify it.
Yes,
so you don't
predict
have.
that.
Look at Dubai, driven first by oil. What have they done? They've diversified the economy. So when you're having problems, it doesn't mean that other things are not happening. All right, you see, they've invested in massive production, they've invested heavily in tourism. There are a number of things. So I'm just saying that we are not there yet. You have laid the base. You've done well. Enjoy your glory. Don't overrate it, though.
You guys are fighting.
All right, Dr. Otu, now this is the situation where we find ourselves, and Atufo Singh tells us that, the finance minister tells us that, you know, the country spent 44% of its total tax revenue on public sector wages last year. That is well above the 35% ceiling recommended by ECOWAS. Well, he was having a meeting with you together with the president, you know, over the current situation and the fact that, of course, you want better remuneration, as is you always do in the negotiations. So he says that Ghana mobilized 183 billion in tax revenue. 183 billion in tax revenue. However, statutory obligations, including transfers to funds such as the District Assembly Common Fund, the National Health Insurance Levy, debt servicing, consumed 121.1 billion. This left the government with just 61.9 billion in discretionary revenue to finance all other expenditures. There was the financing gap of approximately 17 billion, which forced the government to resort to borrowing to meet this situation. How do we process this?
Thank you. Before I go there, let me respond briefly to whether the economy is resilient or not. Maybe we need a discussion devoid of the politicians so we can look at it properly. Of course, the president, whether it's Mahama or Akufo-Addo, in crisis will have to give us hope. So sometimes you can bear with them when they give us set statements. But in 1960, Tony Kellick, professor of economics, described Ghana's economy as fragile because it relies on a monocrop cocoa. In fact, in 2000, when he wrote again for the University of Ghana publication, he says the economy is still fragile. In 2026, our economy relies on a monoproduct called gold. And I would say it is still fragile.
That's right.
In fact, in the last 1 year, we have built up some buffers that surely should enable this economy to respond relatively better to any shock. And here the shock, I'm not distinguishing between external and domestic shocks, because there are also domestic shocks that the economy must respond to. Okay, so yes, relatively we have the shock absorbers compared to some 3 years ago.
100%.
Okay, but this economy will suffer if, as Miracle said, gold prices begin to tumble. And in fact, yesterday I saw on CNN that gold prices have suffered their sharpest decline in 4 decades. Just last week. From about 5,600.
From an all-time high.
From an all-time high.
Nowhere near where we were.
Again,
we are 2.5, now we are 4.5.
They mean like the...
No, I agree.
But
so you are talking
the
about
rate of drop.
So we don't scare people.
No, the rate of drop has been so sharp in just some few days. So, and if you are already generating 68% of your export revenue from gold, any sharp decline can affect how you are able to respond to.
But you read that situations like it's happening now, as in wars, do not necessarily lead to a decline in gold price, as it does directly to oil.
Yes, but it also depends on many dynamics. I mean, what has happened to gold price in the last 1 year is also because we had Trump, whose tariff wars led many investors to divest away from dollar-denominated assets into gold, and that shot up the price of gold. For example, if there's no war and Trump begins to behave, stop the tariff wars, it could also have impact on gold prices. I mean,
Then we'll keep Trump there.
of course. Of course, what we need to do is actually use the current stability, the current strength we have to diversify the economy away from this mono product.
Okay.
Okay, going forward. Now, the issue about government borrowing.
But Doc, we have had our leaders, particularly political leaders, reference us to the situation you talk about since 1960 or even before. And we don't seem to improve and diversify. They keep telling us we need to diversify the economy. Do you see concrete measures to diversify the economy? You may have had hope about 1D, 1F, but looking back, has it done anything?
So it hasn't.
Poco.
We haven't put down the real policies and programs that will ensure that we diversify our economy. And I mean, you can count policies that have been outlawed and announced, but go to our shops, the product there, where are they coming from? Nearly everything is imported into this country, including tilapia. And so it makes it difficult to see how we are diversifying, or the claim that we are diversifying this economy. If you take a 1D, 1F, a flashy, fantastic program, the problem with such initiatives is our politics. So everywhere in East Asia where they diversify their economy, they pick winners. But in Ghana, if MPP is in power, they pick MPP people. And if NDC is in power, they pick NDC people. They may not be necessarily entrepreneurial, but they pick them because they are one of our own. Okay. So the kind of policies and programs we need to diversify this economy, we are not able to do it because, principally also because of our politics. We are not supporting rare entrepreneurs. We are supporting entrepreneurs when they have the right party colors.
Polypreneurs.
Maybe.
What should we do about this? Because the political group cannot take us for granted for all these years, and then we suffer the brands, we bear the brands for it.
Maybe for a start, in a discussion like this, kick out them and miracle.
No, they are important. They must be part of the discussion. They must be part of the discussion.
Yeah, the people who do that.
No, we want you to listen, so you should watch.
We are the police.
You see, the political,
You can't take us out.
political dominance, the MPP NDC dominance of our public space is too much.
It
is too much.
It's not too much.
And you see,
you said resilience in your time. You are also saying resilience, but today you are saying that you are criticizing this guy's resilience. When you said it, he was criticized. So where are we going?
Listen to us.
Yeah, so Dr. Otu.
And then plugging well.
Yeah, so gentlemen, my focus is on Dr. Otu now. Right. From where you sit at TUC, you've been in several meetings, have discussions over this. Presidential candidates have met you. This President Mama, when he was candidate, met you. Akufo-Addo, when he was talking about the changing the Gettysburg economy, met you guys and said all sorts of things. There were even points that some of you got so hopeful that you had to sort of endorse what they were saying, and yet this is where we are. What do you think? What should we do?
what should we do? Probably is sanitize our politics first. Seek some compromise between the two main political forces. Reduce the antagonism. See us as Ghanaians first and foremost. I may not be part of your party, and I may not be partisan, But if I have an idea that can help transform the economy, please support me and let me do.
What has pursuing agricultural industrial revolution got to do with talking to the parties to tone down with their partisanship?
Because when they get opportunity to govern, in our public space, they distribute patronage. And to the extent that even sometimes people question the people who win national awards like Best Farmer. So how do we make sure that people doing real farming are supported? I mean, Samson, take the thing about imports. Our presidents, they come to promise that we'll do everything to stop the imports of, say, poultry product. But there's a poultry lobby in this country that funds political parties. So once they win power, they are powerless. They are not able to do. So Nkukon Kitenkete is a fantastic idea that should support homegrown chicken production. But would they survive the onslaught of cheap import of poultry product from Netherlands, from the UK, produced at heavily subsidized cost? Would they survive it?
At best, we produce less than 3% of the poultry we consume in this country.
In this country. In 1990, we were producing about 95% of what we consume in this country. But that also meant that we only ate poultry product at Christmas. Now, if you find out that Ghanaians want more poultry product on a daily basis, the option is to grow them domestically or import. And we chose the path of importing. Supported by political capital, those people were favored to bring in the import.
Fred, same question to you, because we must get out of this quagmire.
Economy.
We must get out of this trap that puts us in a prison even in the future. So what do we do? As Doc was saying, I remember having conversations with him, and I was very livid when I discovered that the school feeding program were seeking to leverage on the domestic farmers and producers around. And then because we needed to feed a particular importer, we collapsed it. Okay? The eggs they were getting from the local farmers, they lost that. The local farmers, their eggs were rotten. When somebody was bringing something that was packaged from, is it China or somewhere, to be fed the students, the kids.
Yeah. I mean, this is a real problem. In fact, before we came into the studio, a colleague of mine who just returned from the field, the Volta region, the K2 area, in the north, sent me a message about what you're talking about, the entire value chain of agriculture, because we are talking about importing. Even farmers who are producing locally are not getting markets for their products. Rice, go to Honorable Adam Agbane's district, a stockpile of rice that farmers are not able to sell. You go to other parts of the country, farmers are producing and they're not able to sell. In fact, they sent us a message that probably next year, many of them are not going to produce. So it's a problem with the entire value chain. Even the farmers who are producing are not getting market for their products. So we have to address the value chain of agriculture.
Yes, the politicians ought not be there for themselves, but for us. Yeah. How do we get them to do what must be done?
Well, you know, the president announced recently that they should purchase what do you call it?
Local rice.
Local rice. They are not doing it. In fact, there are people who are supposed to be purchasing local rice are importing rice into this country. So, I mean, we have to hold our politicians more accountable. How do we do that? Now, one of the things I think we have to do is to move away from this MPP, NDC politics, because, you know, it's almost as if they know that if MPP is in power for at least 8 years maximum, the next time NDC will come, NPP will come, and therefore this duopoly in our politics is part of the political economy problem that we are facing in this country. And until we break that, for them to know that the citizens of this country deserve better, and we, you know, put pressure on them to do the right thing, it's not going to change, because they have no incentive to change what is going on, right? The farmer, you know, in the Upper East region who is producing soya bean, who is not getting market for it, there's no voice for that farmer. All right, so that has to change, and it's one of the things that we have to do as civil society, as academics, speak to the issue, devoid of politics, and to force change.
Senor, is the 1D, 1F kind of approach not our best way to the diversification that we need?
I beg, I'm tired of this political slogan hearing. It's moot. Our politicians are not intentional about development. And again, it's because of the nature of the politics. You have 4 years to go, you're in a hurry to just show something. So the structural shifts and changes.
So what? Akufo-Addo was pursuing 1D, 1F, and I don't know what he means. His goal was not industrialization.
What's the evidence?
That was not his goal.
He was doing politicking, and then he had to now throw things around to show that something was being done. So what has been done?
No, it's difficult for me to process things that way.
Because
that's
it's
say
not by
President Mahama says, I want to do Kukon Kitinkiti, and the intention behind that is not to improve our local economy.
You know, it's easy to write that, but the first is that you've made promise, so you should be seen to be doing it. That's how the politics runs. It's not about whether you're looking at the output and the productivity of that particular policy intervention. If 1D, 1F was, intentional as it was supposed to have been, thorough as it was supposed to have been, what are the metrics? What are the metrics for evaluation? Look at our budget every time. Most of the times, our politicians discuss inputs, not outcomes. They don't discuss policy outcomes. They talk about policy inputs. We are going to do this, we are going to do this. What are you going to achieve? Do you report on what you've achieved?
Now, my point is that they bring these programs and projects meaning well. Is that not it?
So it's easy to package meaning well because for the most part, our policy making is not thorough. So it is just meant to actually win votes, sound nice to the public, but who has done the thorough thinking to make sure this can be delivered? So you come and sit down and you talk about rice. And I must commend Eric Opoku, since our little banter here, he's engaged the rice fraternity industry. We are working on a small committee has been put in place, and industry is actively participating in trying to help reshape.
I'm happy to know that you have not given up.
No, we don't give up, but you have to now fix it. We're tired of the talk, all right? We talk about paddy purchase. We have to now fight our way into the paddy purchase program. We still haven't even gained full visibility over that process. Because we told the buffer stock people, you are going out there saying you are buying rice, but the rice are all imported rice, packaged in different brands. Have you structured the policy in a way that you ensure that when you spend a unit CD, it actually moves a unit paddy out of the Upper East, out of the Volta region, out of the... Nobody is doing that thinking. So, but we've got ourselves in. We are trying to now create some mapping. We are trying to make sure we map whoever their buyers are with actual producers. We are trying to put in an accountability mechanism so we can actually account for every unit that has been moved. So when the videos that go up there, as the media people go up now, they can see that parties will move because a unit has been spent at buffer stock. We are trying to put that
1 minute.
As to whether the politicians will even do it or not, we don't know yet. But I want to trust that.
In 1 minute, summarize your point about how we get out of the Gettysburg economy. Now we're being told that even, tomato, we're in trouble.
Burkina has banned.
Yes, because Burkina has banned it.
That is a country that being intentional about economic transformation. And it's not to say that our government today will not be. They came to meet a crisis. So contextualize that. They have attained stability. Yeah. Next, you have to start driving transformation. Transformation comes with diversification. And it comes with certain level of intentionality. Don't just say Akukon Kitinkiti. What is the production value of Akukon Kitinkiti? What is it competing? So you take Akukon Kitinkiti, you take poultry. How do we make this value chain competitive enough for it to outdo or match imports? On the back of that, we can achieve A, B, or C. People will not go and just buy local poultry because it is called local poultry. When it is going to cost 3 times what it takes for an imported poultry. People are struggling. You live in a country where 2/3 of your economy is vulnerably employed for those that are employed. Yeah. You understand? In real terms, only 21% of your youth are stably employed.
Okay.
So people will be very sensitive about price.
So thank you.
You have to spend time, identify your products, optimize the supply chain. But the reason, I beg you, there one last thing, because you went there. all this problem comes back to our constitution. It is the nature of our politics. If we don't depoliticize the operating anchors, institutional anchors of our country, we'll make no progress.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Otu, so gentlemen, I want the politicians to understand, when I asked them to make their presentations or comments, some spoke for 5 minutes or less. For the two of you, you spoke for 10 minutes or plus. So I wanted to give them the opportunity again to have a second bite quickly. Then we'll take a break. We'll return to now ask the question about, if that's why, Doc, you were coming back to me, about finding ourselves in a situation where we are borrowing to pay salaries, and yet we are being told that we are going to employ more. Yes, Doc.
Okay, so should I address that question?
No, we'll return to that.
So, I mean, if we find the politicians bring an initiative which is workable, which is a good initiative, probably we should not leave it to them alone. So in Koko and Kete, I'm fascinated about it because I've looked at our chicken imports and what we can do as a country to stop the bleeding. So if that is the case, then all of us probably should find ourselves in that space to contribute. Because it's not just simply a matter of distributing some chicken or chicken feeds to some farmers out there. It is also about, for example, looking at our trade policy as it relates to poultry import. In 2003, Osafo Mafo slapped a 20% increase in the poultry custom duties. He could not implement it. The poultry farmers took the government to court for not implementing what Parliament has actually occasioned approved. The Kufuor government went to Parliament and reviewed the law under a certificate of urgency, all because the IMF has asked them that you cannot implement such a policy. But it was also because we have a strong import lobby in this country that profits so heavily.
Who is funding our politics?
Exactly.
We all sit here and we're always claiming that we want certain things from our politicians. How many of us make contributions to our politics?
Thank you.
But do they really need our contributions?
We don't. That's why we need to have a democracy fund so that we officially fund the politicians and own them.
Yes, the current macroeconomic indicators are looking good, but if we have nothing in place to withstand shocks, we cannot describe the economy as resilient. A resilient economy is one which has in place structures to the extent that impact of shocks, be it external or internal, have minimal or no impact. So resilience is a technical word. That's from a professor. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back.
The recruitment exercise. We've seen a statement issued by the Minister for Government Communication talking about an increase in the number from 5,000 to 10,000 every year. Mr. Speaker, that does not address the core concerns. Mr. Speaker, we want you, the Chief Whip, you gave your word last week that our respected colleague, the Minister of Interior, will come and brief this House. Mr. Speaker, we don't want this to be treated the way they treated the cocoa haircut, where the Finance Minister announced a haircut at his ministry. The people's representatives must be properly briefed, especially when this recruitment has to do with our own constituents.
We have received from the Fair Wages and Salaries proposals of conditions of service amounting to 7.4 billion Ghana cedis, which we are reviewing. The 2026 agreement between government and organized labor still holds. In fact, per the 9th November 2025 agreement on the 2026 base pay, government committed to engage with unions on outstanding conditions of service and undertake critical recruitment into the public service, all within budget constraints. In this regard, government has commenced processes for the recruitment of staff into the public service. Fair Wages and Salaries Commission has also commenced negotiations with organized labor on review of conditions of service, and very soon will be approving them. The reason why there's the need to take a closer look at Ghana's compensation are that the 2025 non-oil tax revenue of 183 billion Ghana cedis was only enough to pay for statutory transfers and debt service. After paying statutory funds such as District Assembly Common Fund, GET Fund, National Health Insurance, and debt service, what was left was not enough to settle Ghana's compensation bill.
Right, so you heard the finance minister, but before him you heard Afeyo Marking, the minority leader. Dr. Thioe Champong joins Professor Coleman. Professor Coleman had said that a resilient economy in technical terms means that the economy is one which has in place structures to the extent that impact of shocks, be it external or internal, have minimal or no impact. And he said, yes, the current macroeconomic indicators are looking good, but if we have nothing in place to withstand shocks, we cannot describe the economy as resilient. And Dr. Thioe Champong says that a resilient economy is one that combines, one, diversity in production and exports. We have failed here as a country over the past 50 years. Our exports are still dominated by oil, gold, and cocoa. Then two, fiscal and financial buffers. We are doing better here, especially the last 1 year. Very good progress. Three, strong institutions and social systems. Marginally okay here, according to many empirical studies. And four, flexibility and adaptive capacity. We are also doing marginally okay here. So overall, we probably score in 2 out of 4 dimensions. The bottom line is that economic resilience is not just about growth. It is about whether an economy has the buffers, diversity, institutions, and adaptability to withstand shocks and sustain recovery. And Dr. Thioe Champong says, we have and must do a lot more. And he puts lot in caps. We must do a lot more. Thank you very much for those messages. Digura Batinos also says that not spending recklessly can also be attributed to a policy. Again, per Miracle's analogy, Dr. Bawumia and his government were using gold as exchange for fuel. The exchange is of dollar for fuel. The question I have to ask is this: what was inflation rates at the time? 54% in 2023 to 27% in 2024. What was fuel price at the time? Okay, so you are raising a number of issues, high cost of living and so on and so forth. They should stop the propaganda and repent for the pain they inflicted on us. Okay, we are looking for solutions. Thank you very much. The opposition is a very important voice and must not be muted simply because they failed. So, Doc, as I mentioned, we start with you. You're asking for better wages. The wages are not the best. I remember, interviewing you on Newsfile some time ago, and you disclosed some of the, wages of some people in public office. Yeah. I was shocked. I never knew that it could be that low. So you're asking for better, and your employer says, we're sorry, we don't have more to give you because we are borrowing to pay you salaries. However, there are more people who need jobs. We want to bring them in. When it gets to we talk about the security sector, want to recruit 20,000 more instead of the 20,000 we had earmarked for the next 4 years.
Okay, so this idea that government is borrowing to pay salaries is quite unfair to labor. Because see, the narrative could have been this: after paying salaries, which is a statutory obligation as well, and after paying transfers to the statutory funds, we had to borrow to pay our debt. Why was it flipped the other way around? To give public sector workers a bad name in order to hang us. Okay, but Samson, in 2025.
So stay there. Why didn't we pay salaries and then perhaps if we needed to borrow to pay
the other things?
Take care of the other obligations. An interesting one there.
In 2025, inflation was at almost 24%. We negotiated with government. In fact, our quarter would have been like 20%. But all of a sudden, they ambush us with the presence of the president. He came sat before us. So we had to, and he pleaded with us that the economy isn't good. Gave all the statistics. So we took 10% when inflation was nearly 24%. Our people lambasted us. Then in 2026, when things has stabilized and you could see inflation coming down and all the indices, the finance minister and his team again called us, now please, we understand your demand, but you know, we have a lot more of our compatriots, young people who have completed teacher training college and nursing training college. We want to recruit some of them. So please, accept 9%. In fact, the other promise the minister made was that there were a number of condition of service issues, expired condition of service, non-implemented condition of service. So please give us some room so that in addition to recruiting some of the young people into the public service, we will also fix those expired condition of service issues. Again, we obliged and took 9%, some of the least wage increment in decades. Samson, our people were again furious with us. But we are now preparing ourselves to go into 2027 negotiations. In fact, per the Public Financial Management Act, we should conclude the 2027 negotiation by April ending. And now here we are, all sort of statistics, some of which we strongly dispute. And an attempt to tell the Ghanaian public that all our woes stem from the fact that the public sector is salaries, wages, compensation is taking nearly everything, and that we had to even borrow to pay them. Now, in the same program where the finance minister says that he has to borrow, he now also then tells the Ghanaian public that they are, instead of recruiting 5,000, they are now even thinking of recruiting 10,000 for this year and probably 40,000
over 4 years.
The mixed message is too loud. And we find the characterization of public sector pay a bit unfair to public sector workers.
So we are talking about, as at the end of 2023, public sector staff strength of almost 1 million.
Okay.
Right? Mm-hmm. And you consistently say that you are not well paid and you ought to be treated well. Can you justify that? How do we sympathize with you that you are not well paid? And this 10% was actually a compromise. The 9% was also a compromise.
Okay, so Samson, let's look at the figures. It starts with the minimum wage, and it is 21 Ghana cedis per day. And the Secretary General indicated that if somebody takes 21 Ghana cedis and takes Hausa cocoa in the morning, gobe in the afternoon, and another Hausa cocoa in the evening, this 21 cedis is not sufficient. And it will interest you to know that there are just so many of our people that actually take this.
It may only do the Hausa cocoa twice, But it can't afford you an addition of Egobe.
There are just so many of our people.
That's minus your transport, minus your
transport, minus your
everything
rent,
else.
minus everything else. This is woefully inadequate. If you go to the single span salary structure, some people are taking, those at the least, they are taking 800 Ghana cedis per month. And in fact, the Ghana government is paying teachers, nurses, 2,000, 2,500. If you are a nurse or a teacher and you live in Dansoman and you are paid 2,500 Ghana cedis and you have 2 kids, what will you do with this amount?
There are people on the public wage bill who are taking 800 cedis.
Yes.
Per month.
Per month.
In this economy.
In this economy.
To do what with it?
I don't know. That's why some people say we are magicians. Now, Samson.
In other words, you find other ways to pay yourself.
Of course.
See anything.
Of course. In around 1997, there was a World Bank publication that says that when wages are low, workers resort to all manner of things, including absenteeism, moonlighting and daylighting, the problem of per diem, and sitting allowance
and extortion. You use extortion.
I'm quoting the World Bank. They didn't use extortion. Per diem and sitting allowance. That is why in the public space, public service, whenever 2 public servants meet, they must sign something to complement the 800. So these are all problems that arise. And in fact, part of the problem is also even low productivity, because workers must necessarily do something else to survive, and that results in low productivity.
I've known public institutions where people report to work. They are paid at the end of the month, but the money to take care of their operations is not available.
It's not available. Yeah, there are many like that.
The state is not funding the operations of the public institution, but just paying them salaries.
Yeah.
So they go look for support from EU, other places for their operations. If those bodies don't give them any money, they don't work. They simply sit there.
And these days, those monies are difficult to come by, given the fact that in Europe today you have so many right-wing governments that are not giving as they used to give. But Samson, in this same country, you then have people, others, receiving a basic pay of 100,000, some 120,000, with rent allowance of $4,000 per month. It still persists.
Entertainment allowance of more than 800.
You have
that the least person is taking.
You have listed some of this. Yeah. They are using public money. They are all public funds, and they ought to be accounted for. The compensation bill the minister talks about, and I think in your table you say for employees. In fact, it is also for retired workers who have retired on their salaries. And I don't know why in a country like ours, where somebody must retire on their salary, anytime we adjust it by 10 or 9%, their salary, their pension also go up by the same amount. So it is not entirely the case that they borrow to pay workers. In fact, they borrow to pay probably the retired people who have retired on their salary. So all the former Chief Justices we have, they are taking the same salary as the current Chief Justice. Okay.
The former president too.
The former president. But you see, if you check even the Constitution,
you are taking it too high. There are people who are earning on their on their salary on retirement who are not Chief Justices.
There are military officers, senior military officers from colonel to generals. There are senior police officers, and there's a whole bunch of security institutions or security personnel who don't contribute to their pension, but they earn the best pension, and that pension has to come from general revenues, and all of that goes into compensation package.
That's the question that Professor Kwesi Prempeh has been asking. He says we must scrap the retirement on salary compensation practices in our public sector. Do we know any other place in the world where this sort of thing happens as commonly as it does here? We are just ridiculous. Adam.
Well, Samson, around this table, there is a general consensus that we have a problem when it comes to our wage bill. And what the finance minister did was to inform the people of Ghana the challenge as it is. And it is important to say that it's a long-standing structural challenge. It is not a John Mahama creation. It is not an Ato-Forson creation. These challenges have been with us, and we must have an honest conversation about how to get ourselves out of this challenge. Because to have an
I've been trying to find out if the last government had to ever borrow to pay.
No, I will come to the issue of borrowing, but you have an economy that 44.08% of all your tax revenue goes into payment of compensation alone. And this is not the worst we have had. At a point, it rose to 63%. We've had these challenges with us. Even under NDC 1 or President Mahama 1, at a point it was 55. So we've had this challenge. I think that it's important to have this honest conversation. The problem before us is an issue of public finance management. How do we increase wage or compensation to our workers as they are demanding? And how do we ensure that increment in employment and increment in compensation brings an outcome that is commensurate with the productivity, so that when I'm employing 100,000 new workers, it must reflect in productivity.
Right.
It must reflect in how the economy is expanding. And so employment will not be seen as a social intervention.
Yeah, so you are contributing and you are getting paid from your own contribution.
Exactly. So employment will not be a social intervention. So, and that is what the private sector does. Let's take multimedia, for example. There are many qualified journalists and producers who can effectively work at JoyNews. But JoyNews management will not take the decision to employ them because they are agitating that they want to be employed. They will employ them on need basis.
Exactly.
And so as and when there is a vacancy, and JoyNews believes that by employing these people, they will contribute to your efficiency, you will do that. But in the public sector, for a long time, we see employment as a social intervention. And so, yes, let's employ because we need to employ. Young people need jobs. But nobody is really measuring the productivity and how this increase in employment is leading to an increased productivity. So what Ato-Forson did was to simply tell us the challenge that we have and what he believes we can do to resolve it. I understand, Doc, with the discomfort with the statement he made that we borrow to pay salaries, because you are saying that it could also mean maybe they borrow to do other things.
To pay debt.
To pay debt and others.
Yeah.
But you see, here is the case that today, if there is any challenge with the economy, and assuming without admitting that for the whole of March, there is no tax revenue that accrues to government, we can defer debt payment or debt servicing. We can defer investment in other social programs of government. But don't forget, we cannot defer payment of salaries. So whatever happens, government will find ways and means to pay salaries. Okay. And so I don't think that, I think he's been taken out of context when he says we borrow to pay salaries. Okay. He is simply looking at the issues and the fact that with the 44% compensation that we are paying, and it is even more scary when you add the amount or the percentage in terms of debt servicing as well. So when you combine compensation with payment of interest on loans and all of that, you are talking of over 90%. And no economy can survive on that, because when you are, how do you even create the fiscal space for capital expenditure? Yeah. How do you create the space to create more jobs, sustainable jobs? And so Ato-Forson only gave us an insight into a challenge. So I played with organized labor that let's not take his comment out of context. And again, Ato-Forson and President Mahama, this government, we care so much about organized labor. It is our wish that even to sustain the goodwill of this government, if it was possible,
we could have just come and say we are increasing salaries by 50%. Indeed, the people of Ghana, the workers, will be happy with us. But we are looking at whether or not these increases, as you are demanding, the economy will be able to support it. And that is why I said earlier that
you said you could have increased salaries by what, 50%.
Yeah, I'm saying that if
that is not possible.
Yes, I'm saying if it was possible, President Mahama would gladly increase salaries by 50 or even 100%, so that the organized labor will applaud him. But beyond getting the applause, you make some of these decisions based on capacity. So all these years, in all our negotiations with organized labor, government keeps pleading that, yes, we are making gains, we are stabilizing the economy, but we do not want to plunge the economy back into the ditch where we are picking it from. And so for the next couple of months, help us accept what we are offering, and let's together get out of the mess. And don't forget, Samson, there was a time that the previous government asked the people of Ghana, asked organized labor, to actually sacrifice. At the time they were asking us to sacrifice, look at the priority of government, the kind of investment, the kind of expenditure they were making. But today, as we are asking you to accept what we are offering, look at government's attitude towards expenditure. And it's an important conversation that we need to have. Look at government's attitude towards expenditure. We are pleading that, yes, organized labor will always demand that they want better conditions of service. And if I were in your shoes as a union leader, I probably would have also entered this studio wearing red, and I would have added a red cap, or even some, attire looking all wild and all of that. But we are pleading that accept what we are offering. But again, I'll come to the issue of employment.
The contradiction.
But let's also accept.
That you say you are borrowing to pay, and yet you want to employ more.
No, even us, Samson, I will come to the issue of borrowing, of employing more. Samson, even us, we are asking them to take 9%, 10% increment. It's also important for us to look at the economic conditions of the country now. If inflation is down to 3.3%, if the exchange rate is stable now more than it used to, what it means is that with a 9% increment in your salary and inflation of about 3.3%, it is better than even having, say, a 20% increment in your salary with inflation hovering around 54%. Because you have to look at the economy, the general economic well-being, the economic conditions that we have as a country. And so we are pleading with organized labor. And organized labor can attest to the fact that, yes, we may not be meeting your demands in terms of the percentage increment, but where we are today, your purchasing power, to a large extent across sectors, you have a better purchasing power than it was under the previous government. Okay. So it's the issue of employment. I am a young member of parliament. I tell you this, in my constituency, the biggest challenge for young people is employment. Across this country, as a former deputy national youth organizer, 9 out of 10 calls that I receive from young people, many of them are looking for jobs. So as we talk about how the economy is stabilizing and all of that, I have always said repeatedly, even internally, that it is important for the growth to result in the creation of sustainable employment. And I'm using the word carefully, sustainable, because I do not believe that governments must invest resources into creating short-term pyrrhic employment that after 2 years, 3 years, the young people are back to ground zero. So we need to create sustainable employment. So over the years, autoforcing is being criticized. Everyone is asking for clearance. Everyone is talking about clearance. The issue of policing and the security agencies, Samson, it is not as though Ghana has met the international standards when it comes to, let's say, the police to citizen ratio. But why is it that we limit the numbers when we are employing? It's an issue about the purse. If the purse is not heavy enough to support the numbers, you cannot employ those numbers. And so it is important to create jobs. And let's look at what government is doing to create the jobs. Back to Akukon Kitinkiti, You mentioned that, so I'll make reference to that. Samson, if 10,000 beds are being distributed to each constituency, young people are being recruited, they are being trained and supported with these beds, supported with the feed for them to engage in the production of poultry products. Apart from reducing significantly your import bill on chicken products, you are also going to increase employment. The 24-hour economy, and I know I can actually, I know that you are going to go there. One thing or another.
Do that.
We need to, as a country, build structures to support sustainable employment. Something, there is a need for us to employ. We cannot say because the wage bill is high, so we cannot employ. Now, if the employment will result in an increase in production, it is necessary to do so. And that is why I believe that with the finance minister's announcement that we are going to employ more, it will actually match with an increment in production, and so the employment is necessary and must be done. But to conclude something, it is important for us to say that government of the day has a responsibility towards the young people of this country, and government is doing something that is very key, that is often not discussed in the media: rationalization within the public sector. As we speak, we are doing what we call HR gap analysis to identify that TOR, ECG, and all the other public agencies, where do we really need to employ, which sectors? Because for some of these agencies or some of these institutions, they have probably less technical people and many more people with social background. So that HR gap analysis, which we are doing to identify the vacancies, will create the sustainable business. And I believe that employment will be given. It's government. It's a government directive. HR gap analysis is being done.
And you're saying that is new. Anyway, okay. So sorry, Fred. I was listening to Afeyomakin on the floor of Parliament this week, and he got everything spot on. He was, they were considering this University of Engineering and Agricultural Sciences Bill, 2025, and he made, certain important concerns about rising youth unemployment, which is worsened by overemphasis on degrees and certificates. And then he proposed a shift, as in the national education policy towards vocational and technical training to provide for practical skills. Because we are just churning out degree holders, certificates, and there's no job for them anyway. So he says, whilst we are building universities and seeking to spread universities around, let's think more about vocational and technical training. He was at the same time concerned about our youth who look down on apprenticeships. The law, for example, how law began. It was not going to sit in a classroom. It was somebody following a lawyer and then learning, the trade, and just getting to be able to do it. So he spoke about all of these things and how unsustainable the way we are approaching things will be. Let's know your view about the conflict or the contradiction in saying I'm borrowing to pay and yet I'm going to employ more. And Adam just confirmed here that the attitude is as a social, cushion, rather than employing because I need to employ.
I think as a country we like to discuss symptoms, rather than getting to the root of the problem. And that's why, in fact, I bet you maybe a few years from now, if you have us sitting here, we'll be talking about the same thing. Because we never get to the root.
Intentionality around policy.
We never get to the root of it. We just discuss the symptoms. Now, what are we seeing here? I mean, you talked about it wasn't even only law. In fact, most professions were like that. people went and, practiced with those practitioners, and then they developed the skills to do that. Today, we've turned most of our polytechnics into
technical universities.
Basically, technical universities, and they are offering all kinds of courses that
business administration and all that.
Yes. So that's one of the fundamental problems we have. But let's go back and diagnose what the issue is. You have this excess demand for public sector jobs. I've had situations where a colleague in the ministries were telling me how they employed a lot of people, and they just come down and sit down. There are no jobs to do. So like you said, it's almost like a social intervention, right? So the excess demand for public sector jobs is this 5. I saw they showed again the 500,000 people applying for 5,000.
Yeah,
that's a symptom, just a symptom of
and Doc, do you know what? In 2018, when Shraj was confronted with a situation like this, there's a group known as the Citizen Forum.
Yeah.
They took the immigration service to Shraj and said the immigration service was looking to fill vacancies, 500 vacancies, and yet they sold vouchers to over 81,000 people.
84,000.
Now, when they had to go to defend themselves at Shraj, they said, oh, we understand the situation, but even in the end, we are going to create a bank, a data bank, where those who have already gone through, we will keep them for the next phase. They've never done it. They don't use it.
Yeah, they don't.
This is where we are now. 5,000 chasing 50,000.
500,000.
500,000.
Yeah. So you've described the problem. So the problem is one of the things you've talked about there is basically the mismatch between the skills that we need for the job market and what we are churning out in the various institutions that we have. So we do research, and sometimes we recruit people for field work, and I get CVs from people with master's degrees, 2 master's degrees, wanting to go and collect data that somebody with polytechnic or an SHS can do.
Yeah.
That tells you what the problem is. And because they are sitting home, they go and get another degree.
Exactly.
Go and get a PhD, hoping that would help them to solve their unemployment problem. But we are not generating the capacity, we are not generating the production in the economy that would absorb the jobs. So it doesn't matter how educated the people are. If there's no production in the economy, they are not producing anything. Where is the revenue going to come from to pay these people? And that takes us to the second issue about the wage bill issue, borrowing. It's a matter of also low revenues, right? Because I was looking at the data from our peers, sub-Saharan African countries and even some middle-income countries. And I realized that what we are complaining about in terms of our wage bill is not really large. The problem is the revenue base. So if you have a low revenue base, then even a normal wage bill will suddenly look too much because you don't have the base to support it. And as he was talking about the low wages. In fact, at the beginning of the year, I decided to look at my pay slip and over a couple of years and just do an analysis of my wages. And I realized that my real wages have been falling.
Yeah.
All right, and let me make that point, what you were talking about, that if my real wages have been falling over the years, and all of a sudden inflation has dropped, right? Disinflation, as we know, doesn't mean that prices are falling, right? So even if the inflation rate is 3%, it means that prices are still rising. But my income, remember that my real wages have already eroded. Okay, so to get me to a place where I'll be comfortable, you don't have to be increasing by 9% and compare it to current inflation rates. Because over the years, my real wages have fallen, right? So we really need to, and I like the point you made about creating decent jobs, because many times we are interested in, and they churn out figures, right? 1 million jobs have been created. We don't interrogate what kind of jobs, what kind of wages are they earning. Many people are earning wages that are below 600 cedis. I know people in the public sector, 800 cedis. Now, so that's one of them. And then the other thing we have to talk about, then how do we solve this problem? Because I mean, one is to find ways of raising revenue. But how do you raise revenues when you don't produce? Okay, so productivity, the productive sector. And that's not going to come from government sector. It's going to come from the private sector. And most private sector people are not looking for handouts. Okay, they are looking for, systems that work, that will make them produce. Fix the roads, it will make transportation costs cheaper, and it will make commodities cheaper on the market. If you fix electricity, it will make and the cost of electricity, it will make production cheaper, right, for people. These are the kinds of interventions that government should be making to make the private sector more productive. And if they are more productive, they will be able to absorb the labor. Right. Because how many people are government going to employ? Mm-hmm. Will they be able to absorb all the youth that are seeking for jobs? They can't. It's the private sector that will be able to do that. So unless you provide the impetus for the private sector to be able to produce and be productive, we are going to be talking about this problem for a very long time, right? So, and of course, as the private sector gets more productive, your revenues will go up because they will pay taxes.
That's right.
Right, so your revenues go up and you won't be talking about going to borrow to pay public sector wages because at least
So does it make sense to you what Atuforsin talks about, and then the president in the same breath says we are going to employ more?
Well, the president will say we are going to employ more because they want to give people jobs, right? People, you campaign on the back of when we come would give you jobs. So when you come to office, you are thinking about getting jobs.
You think this is the politics as usual?
Well, it's one of it, and we can't run away from it. And let's not run away from it. I mean, I think that some public sector jobs would be necessary because I had the issue about the security services, the fact that we need to, increase our police to population, rate and all that, our security. So that would be necessary.
Those who are seeking those jobs, not for all the security services, were half the number you have in the public service already.
Well, that's why the point you made is important. That why do we sell vouchers to 500,000 people when we know that the vacancies available are just for 500,000?
5,000.
Yeah, just for 5,000. Right. So, but I'm saying that this is just a symptom of a deeper problem that we need to address as a country. Right. Let's fix the private. Let's provide incentives for the private sector to grow, because that is where the jobs are going to be absorbed. That is where the youth are going to find employment, agribusiness, right, and so on.
Anyway, Dennis, help me make sense of the two contradictory, for me, that's how it comes out. And I'm trying to really understand why I'm borrowing to pay workers, and I say that I want to employ more workers.
And Council, I mean, I'm sure even Adam knows how not be charitable with this. The fact of the matter is that, and I'll repeat, it's time for this government to step back. You won the elections already. There's nothing else to tell us, especially for the president. Listen, this is your final shot. Just get the job done. You'll be contradicting yourselves if you continue to put yourself in the people-pleasing mode. You said all these things in opposition. What was your understanding of the country's employment challenges when you were speaking in opposition? You see, people's level of satisfaction is simply what you promise, which is the expectation, and what you deliver. You can promise in fact, you can go somewhere and people are so happy with very little. It is not because that is the best they would want, but that is what you promise them and you are delivering. For me, I think this government, especially the president, will do us a lot of good if they begin to look at things. Listen, in opposition, you went to your manifesto launch. You place a clock on stage beside the podium by the president. Then you, how do you call it? You span it. And then the thing moved. It's like a clock. They said, this is the 24-hour economy clock. 133. 3 shift jobs. Obia bedidi peche. For the 24-hour economy policy to work, the security services must be increased by at least 30,000. I just played the video. I just played a video. I'm basically paraphrasing him. I played a video. He was quite emphatic. Security services must be increased by at least 30%, 30,000, because at night, when the workers are going to their shifts, they would need the security services to protect them. See, that comment is loaded with so many things. That goes directly to confront this government and what their plans are for the country. In the first place, basically what you are telling us is that in the current scenario where you are unable to increase the security services by that number of about 30,000, 24-hour economy is in danger. You are quite clear. Number two, you promised the people that you are going to give them a 3-shift job system. They went to queue for that. Cancel. People actually went to queue for that. Why? Everybody goes to the poll not because I am Ebe, I am Ashanti, I'm Christian, I'm Muslim, or I am tall or short. People go and vote for policies and things that will benefit them. Like the university students. People who could not have completed senior high school, but for free SHS, voted against MPP. You know why? Because they were done with that free SHS. They were looking out for themselves on how they can progress to tertiary. There was a different person promising them free school fees at the university level 100. So even though you have done them so much good, they voted against you. Don't blame them. They were looking out for themselves. So today, if you have 500,000 young people going to queue and buy forms for security services, it is because of the promise. And they had so much hope in you that you will do better than the previous guy because you gave them the numbers. After all, people were going to work, the organizers were going to work at 2 a.m. on the Techiman Road. They are going to sell police forms. Let me go and buy some.
They'll put water tanks on all cocoa farms.
Yes. So
Yeah. I heard the president saying this. You know, it was played back this week. I was watching.
Said it.
That every cocoa farm, they'll put a water tank there.
And
so
I keep saying
you can have excess water.
I keep saying this. You and I recollect my debate here
politicians.
on this 24-hour economy thing. Where I kept saying that 24-hour economy is a demand and supply situation. It's a push and pull scenario. 24-hour economy in itself is not a policy. It's an outcome from sets of policies. I kept saying this. You were here.
That's right. That's right.
And I even kept saying that to even make the people believe that public sector is even going to run a 3-shift system itself was a problem. You remember? I remember very well. I used to ask on this panel whether where I used to work at the local government ministry, they were going to run 24-hour economy. And some people in the NDC actually told me yes, and that I was a naysayer. Here we are. You see, when you see people taking on the government, and I heard them say that the goodwill must be sustained. Let's say the goodwill is gone. Rather, they owe the country goodwill. In fact, they don't have bad will yet. Let me give them that. They don't have the bad will yet. But when it comes to goodwill, this government, they have zero. If they think they have any to sustain.
Really?
Yes.
The polls don't show.
Go and put a ballot box at the University of Ghana, Ivandi Hall, and see what they will get. The guys came to school, you promised them stress-free fees.
And they got it.
No, they didn't.
They got it.
Please, I beg you. No, please.
No, his problem is when they get
why do you say Vandi?
No, his problem, Dennis's problem is not that they are not getting the money.
Nobody has gotten it.
They are getting it, but not when it should come to them.
Hold on. The policy,
I will explain that.
No, you can't. Let me finish.
The politicians have explanation for everything.
Mr. President, you are a policy guy. Hear me out.
Yes. Yeah.
These guys cannot take everybody for a fool. Listen.
No, they are paying it.
Wait, I went to University of Ghana with a loan. My mother borrows. I pay my fees. Middle of the semester, I get Senate loan. I go and take it from GCB. I send small to madam, and the rest I blow it. You understand what I'm saying? Now, you said that you want to make it stress-free. It means that it wasn't as if there was no intervention already. Student loan has been running since Adam. So even those of us who cannot afford, we could always find our ways to get access, and then later we apply for the loan. Then your policy was clear. Oh no, when you are coming for the first semester, you struggle too much. So we don't want you to struggle. So you called it stress-free policy.
Right. Stress.
No free stress.
Yeah.
Now, if I have to go to school, still struggle, not be able to get the money, go and borrow. In fact, some could not even access tertiary this academic year.
No.
And then when I finish, I come and apply and hope that it comes to me. Don't call it policy fulfilled. Let me put that by the side and come back to my issue. So you see, a lot of these promises that they have failed to actually implement as they explained and promised the people is what we are experiencing. You gave the people hope. I have 36 specific videos on how these guys hoodwinked and misled the entire country to follow a certain 24-hour economy. At some point in the 2024 elections, they were saying nothing else apart from 24-hour economy. The whole country believed you. They believed that you had a certain magic wand. Meanwhile, at that time, you knew that public sector worker numbers were about 850,000. And at that time, you knew that there were times that we were spending 63 to 65% of our revenue to pay public workers. You knew it already. So on what basis were you making all those promises? Then we come to the contradictions. You come, you run an advert, they go and buy. Now, you knew that you could actually pick only 5,000. And yet, the number one sieve that reduces the number for you, which is the age limit, you remove it. Listen, if you want even 1 million people to qualify into the security services in Ghana, you can get 1 million. You can get all of them to qualify. But when you are going to pick people, some few number from a large number, you introduce several layers. It doesn't mean that those who fall off cannot be part, but you are trying to at least increase the layers to be able to get the numbers that you want. So there was an age limit. The age limit necessarily wasn't a stupid idea. It doesn't mean that when people are 45, 50, they cannot be in the security services. But it is one of the criteria to help at least reduce the numbers. You removed it. Now, when you remove it, what do you expect? You have increased the number of people who now can actually apply. They apply. And then you knew that even in the budget, you have just 10,000 people that you have made provision for. And you take so much money from them, so much money. The amount of revenue the government has made from these poor unemployed people, go and look at the figures. Then when there is agitations, as usual of this government, anything they do when there's agitations, they'll go into a panic mode. When there's agitation, you go into a panic mode. Then one afternoon, you wake up, you release a letter that says that you are increasing the intake from 20,000 to 40,000 over the next 4 years. How many years do you have in office? You think you can make policies for the future? How many years do you have in office? You have barely 1.5 years effectively to go. You understand what I'm saying? Barely 1.5 years. Most of your people, your own party people, they didn't even read the letter in full. The headlines only captured 40,000. So most of them now begin to think that, all of a sudden, this government is going to pick 40,000 people, without realizing that he says over 4 years. And so it is possible that a certain 25,000 can be beyond the 4 years. You don't give people such anticlimax. People's BP are going through a certain, up and downs because of these government actions and inactions. And that's a worry to me. How are you going to deal with the situation now? As we speak in our council, you have 995 days to go to election. 995, your tenure is over. You have not introduced a single major groundbreaking policy, even from your own manifesto. None. The number one riding horse for you to come to power was 24-hour economy. Listen, we play with that policy. This country's number one challenge is production and employment. So when you come to the people and tell them that when I come, I will make sure that I increase production and I employ all of you, be rest assured that your likelihood of winning the next election will be high. You don't expect people to go and queue, vote for you. You come to office and you are moving and jumping around the bush without confronting the specific promise you made to them.
So the promise that we will employ even if we are borrowing to pay is consistent with their pledge.
Whose fault is that? Borrow. Whose fault? Whose fault? After all, if you borrow, where is the money going to? Your job now is to ensure that whilst you are borrowing, you don't only borrow to supply sanitary pads. Have you checked how much the political class have increased their salaries? Go and look at the salary increase for DCEs and MCEs under this government. And he talks about we are not spending. Go and look at it. I was an MC, I have the figures. I have my own paying slip, and I have their paying slip. Go and look at it. Go and look at the number of political appointments they have made. Go to every region. Go and look at political appointments. They tell you, let me tell you one thing. And you see, that is something that the NDC do and I laugh. How many ministers did they say they have? 60. right? And they tell you that we don't have deputy regional ministers.
They are doing less.
No, wait. It doesn't matter. Let's deal with the facts. You say you have done 60, so we should applaud you. And they tell you we don't have deputy regional ministers, so it's part of the things. I was a presidential staffer. As a presidential staffer, my remuneration and everything and compensation and everything was at a level of the ministers. You understand what I'm saying? If you tell me you don't have a deputy regional minister for Eastern Region, but you have appointed your Eastern Regional organizer as a presidential staffer in charge of political operations, paying him the same as a minister who is not a member of parliament, or at worst as a deputy minister, what are you telling the people?
What we are told is that the presidential staffer list is far less than what you have.
Yes. No, have you seen the list yet?
It's going to parliament.
Exactly,
so
wait for it. So wait for it. We had 66 for the record. So wait for the years.
No. We don't use 66, right?
No, it was 66. Don't get it wrong. Don't get it twisted. Again, this is Newsfile. Deal with the fact. Listen, at the president, that's a lie. At the presidency, when you say presidential staff,
we know that.
There are just 66.
Okay.
Those who, not everybody that works in the bank is a banker. Not everybody that works at the presidency is a presidential staffer. So when you go and pick the list, the point I am making is about the guys who are taking the exact compensation at the level as the ministers and the deputy ministers, which you are disguising and telling the whole country that, because the point you are making with not having a deputy minister, that you've cut cost.
We have less.
You understand what I'm saying?
On that part, because you could also have a lower part.
Let me land.
It's okay, Senor, you take it on from there.
So as I land,
Senor has not spoken for a long time.
As I land, council.
And he's kept a posture I didn't expect.
I need to correct.
I didn't expect he could.
What you said.
No, so you see, as I land, the fact is that the government is being basically called on to do what they said and fulfill the promises they made. If they have challenges, it's also up to them to come and lament to the people. Their job is to fix it.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Senor, look, as an employer yourself, I know how sometimes you feel the difficulty. You find yourself in a situation where the economy is such that, you are not getting as much, and yet your employees, you need to do something about their wages, and you have to. What do you say of the circumstance?
As a business, we have to sustain. It's better for me to lose a few more stuff and make sure the business thrives, and those who are there can also get productive and meaning to their life. It is also better if I can actually sustain them so they become more productive and hopefully navigate in the short term. And I've been through it. A lot of my businesses were dollar earning businesses. We increased a lot of salaries, benchmarked it because the dollar had appreciated so much against the cedi. Then last year, you had about a 40% clawback. You don't go and tell anybody that. And now that the dollar has gone the reverse, I'm going to reduce your salary. No. But we have to optimize that. It has affected some of our clients. So there's always a trade-off that you always have to plan for. I look at the story with labor. Labor's story is not a very healthy story. And I think that I'll borrow the words of Kufuor, that we pretend to be paying and we also have workers pretending to be working. Real incomes have dropped, so there's a need for a proper discussion. But productivity, in my opinion, is also at an all-time low. Coming into the studio, I was having a chat with Dr. Otu. I called him my in-law. And I said, we are nobody discussing productivity of the public sector. And he says that why is it that we always remember productivity only when there's a discussion
about rate.
And he is right.
That's so true.
You understand? Our economic managers have been quite irresponsible on that front. Why do we discuss the productivity of our public sector only at that point? Mm-hmm. That's what's the name of the
MDPI.
MDPI. What does it stand for?
Management Development and Productivity
Institute. Why is it not publishing productivity reports on the public sector on a quarterly basis for us to actually relate to what is happening? You look at the goods and services budget, it's a very sad story. Go to most of our MMDs. Goods and services allocations, terrible. NCC at a point, the whole district gets in a whole month 500 cedis. What work would NCC do in that district? For printing, for paying electricity bill. I mean, at a point, now when Josephine Nkrumah was there, so we all jumped in as part of one guy to help with the advocacy. We tried to support and fund some of their projects. But you can imagine what's happening in a lot of the other MMDCs. So you are right when you say we pay a lot of people for them to just sit there. That is counterproductive. It is irresponsible. It's not proper economics. We cannot run 21st century economics with 20th century and even 19th century ideologies and thinking. Government cannot be the anchor of employment.
No.
All right? Government sector work takes out of the economy with hope that it produces some productivity back to the economy. When you increase your wage bill, you're doing it at the expense of investment, you're doing it at the expense of taxes, you're doing it at the expense of borrowing. But this is the fact. It is not correct, and I don't think that a finance minister intended to say so and put that much weight on that.
Quite clear.
Yeah, but I said, again, I know I told. I think it was a communication matter. It is very wrong, and it's very wrong and respectfully unfair that we say we borrow to pay salaries. We don't borrow to pay salaries. We borrow to fund government expenditures, which includes salaries. All right? That's what we do. Every country does that to some extent. But you must create a balance. And I think that last year we saw a good primary balance, which was done, which shows fiscal discipline on the part of the finance minister. So there's a certain balance, but let's not put that weight there. Once you are the employer, productivity of your employees is your responsibility. Are we getting that productivity from labor? I don't think we are. Who is responsible for that? It is the employer. All right? It is the employer. If you're having 44% of your tax revenue being consumed by this group of people, look at the inverse relationship. There's a certain level of productivity. If you're having 500,000 people applying for 5,000 jobs, and 500,000 is half the people, half your labor force today. Yeah. All right?
Just for that sector.
Force, I mean, the public sector.
Yeah.
And again, sometimes we miss it. There's a little data we are not really. We have to talk about full government. What do you call it? Labor, yeah. Because there are SOEs that are still dependent indirectly or have an ultimate responsibility owned by the state, and that data is not added. But I think that there's a need for. He said it would be good for you guys to look at that. So we report it. The way we report public debt, which is very unhealthy, because a lot of debt is also hidden in other quasi-government institutions. Yeah. So that's why the general government data showed over 100% of GDP, but public sector debt was standing around 70 or 60 something at the point. We need to be very thorough and open about the data issues. Labor cannot be losing real income so fast, so much, and us pretend to be paying them. So there's a need for that to be addressed. He's at ESA, he's just done his analysis, he's told us what it is. What do we think we are doing? We are going to diminish productivity on the part of labor. We're also going to incentivize them to look out for alternate ways to self-sustain, which would include extorting money from the public service and from the private sector and from the public who will utilize the services in there, which also include extorting monies in ways that dumping private sector productivity. Having said that, it brings the question, how then do we create productivity and employment for people to really get meaning in there? It will always be dependent on the private sector.
Definitely.
Unfortunately, Adam, again, I'm not getting that clarity in your productive plan in how you actually superimpose the ideology of the private sector being the anchor of growth from your economic policy as a country, as a party. There's a need for a proper conversation. I hear the finance minister say we are going to build power sector plants, okay? Power plants, yeah. Fantastic. But you again hear him sounding as though it has to be done by the government. It is retrogressive. It is yesterday's economics. It is yesterday's economics. Governments have never proven to be sustainably efficient and productive in what they do. You understand? So what you want to do as government is to position yourself more as a regulator, as an enabler of private sector investment that are proven to be more productive. Read the literature across every economy, and I don't know why we are missing the story. You are a social, what do you call it? A social democratic party. You are the center of the left. You are not a far left.
A taste of champagne.
You understand? Yeah, it's okay. I mean, if they have champagne, they have champagne taste. It's fine. I don't have problem with that. Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. As government, your focus should be on setting rules. Your government, your spending should be driven at unlocking supply chains by investment in public goods. Exactly. You talk about roads. I want to do roads. Don't do roads for political reasons. No. Do roads because those roads unlock economic opportunity in a particular sector of the economy. How do we create new channels within our economy? Stop playing politics with our bauxite. Stop playing politics with our alumni. All right? And then stop telling me you want to do a 15-year reserve. For what?
Yeah.
You understand? I don't know what people, I don't know what policy engagement is going on. We need for you to get, you see, Adam, for you to really get the kind of stability you are hoping from that. Spend the leverage you have now to unlock production.
Exactly.
And then you need to unlock new channels. We'll discuss gold. There are better ways for us to unlock it. I mean, we have been discussing Galamsey. How do we unlock gold better? How do we unlock new things like alumna? So we stop exporting bauxite. So we use that to build a whole new value chain. Those things are the things that create diversity and anchors for you to create a resilient economy. You see, so I'm still worried. And again, I'm not impressed either by you, the opposition, because again, you spoke about production, you did nothing. All right.
We are going for
but you
don't even matter.
You probably did not. But I'm saying you matter because your voice should be able to stroll learning. I don't think you want to hustle between now and the next time you come into government. You still want this country to move progress. So the next time you are coming into government is because you are looking at a better way to accelerate things.
To be a good role model.
We have had a fantastic finance minister pressing the brake, but it's one thing to press the brake to slow down the car that's almost going to have a crash. It's another thing to start driving on the right path because you use an accelerator. So you need to manage the two. And I am totally lost from the conversation we have from both of you. Having said that, I want to commend opinion marking. I think it's the best. It's proving to be your best shot at trying to hold the line politically for you as a party. He's done great.
Want to change him.
And if you try to change him, I think that it will be the biggest mistake you make. Understand?
The party says they don't intend to change him.
Okay, then that is fine.
I think,
but you need
I think we should end that discussion until anything happens.
I'm wrapping that. You should equip opinion marking and his team for us to start looking at strong policy alternatives. Because as political parties, you are policy houses. And that's what the conversation is. It is not he says, she says. It's how do we make the lot of the Ghanaians better, stronger.
The money we are seeking to borrow to employ more, we should rather target it somewhere else.
No, so you see, there are a number of things that you have on the expenditure line. And Atos is doing a great job trying to find a way to rationalize it. But there's a lot more. Are we being efficient with the current expenditure?
The way you react.
When we spend on capex, as we are saying, for example, roads, are we being efficient at it? We are very clear that our road expenditure is extremely bloated as at the Ghana Highways Authority. The government procurement system, how effective and efficient is it? When you rationalize that, you create more fiscal space for you to make proper investment to unlock new opportunities. First, to put in bauxite refining facility in this country, may cost us $1 billion. Why do we want to go and keep 15-year reserve? No, but that $1 billion could unlock $5 billion for us.
Thank you, Adam. Adam wanted to
last one. We discussed agriculture. and he was talking at Akukon Kitikiti. This is the problem we have again, discussing input. What analysis have we done? And I'm not blaming you, Edemo, because it's the same thing here. No, it's not balanced. You don't listen, guys.
We do not balance.
It's not that I always want to balance. No, okay. No, please. It's not that balance. The problem here is that we keep recycling our same problem.
No, but for now they are
I'm getting tired.
Yeah, let's deal with them.
Private sector needs to multiply the economy. That has to be the anchor of growth. Agreed. When you're unlocking such policies, the key thing you realize here is not that we are doing something. It's how effective, efficient we can achieve them. So this supply chain, this Akukon Kitinkiti, have you heard from the policy drivers of this? Or can you tell?
Okay, so this is a point you've already canvassed.
How competitive are we going to be relative to this?
Right.
So every single chain,
you raised this already. You raised this already.
Analytical policy making.
So Adam,
competitive.
Adam, you are not going to talk about Akukon Kitikiti. You wanted to make a quick rebuttal to Dennis about the stress-free.
Yes.
I don't know what your difficulty is.
Yes.
You promised that you were going to make it stress-free for them to pay their fees, their initial fees to get into school. That is not what they are facing now. They have to struggle still to get the money to pay. They get in before they get to access the money. That's all he's saying.
No, Samson, so Dennis missed the point because there are two interventions introduced by President Mahama at the tertiary level. We have what we call the SLTF Plus, where when you get your admission for any of the public institutions, and for whatever challenge you have, you are unable to pay your fees, you can apply to the student loan. They give you what we call the SLTF Plus in advance for you to pay your fees, get registered before you can access the no fee stress. What we promised was to pay the academic facility user fees as a relief to tertiary students. And last year, for last academic year, over 156,000 students across public institutions benefited from this policy.
They were in school.
Now, for you to qualify, why do you call you a student? You must be a registered student. And that is why, if you have any challenge, for whatsoever, if you have any challenge, for which reason you cannot access the admission, you rely on the second policy, which is the SLTF Plus. So we have changed it.
What is
so the stress-free?
Is this what you sold? Is this what you sold during the campaign?
No, but the thing is here.
No, this is not what you sold in the campaign.
Let me tell you something.
Your campaign was that many people are unable to access tertiary education because they are unable to pay the admission fees.
The admission fees, exactly.
So you make it stress-free.
Great.
Now the fact is that they have to struggle to get in before you make a refund.
Now, Samson, there is a bottleneck, which is the payment of admission fees. What government has done is to introduce the SLTF Plus to remove that bottleneck, and so it answers that question.
No.
Then this bursary comes in as a support system.
No.
Samson,
you have failed on
Samson, it is important to make this point.
Okay, you made a point.
Samson, a couple of months ago,
you failed.
I was privileged to sit in a meeting with vice chancellors and other stakeholders in education. When the SLTF asked them what should be the mode of paying, should government pay this money to the universities ahead of the students assessing, they disagreed and said, keep how you have done it over the years. Give the money to the individual students. And so the structure we are using now is supported by data, supported by other stakeholders like the Vice Chancellor's Ghana. But it's also important.
No, you made a point.
No, but Dennis said that government has not done or has not implemented any of our policies. But Samson, that is a blatant lie. There is big push going on. 13.2 billion. Mahama Cares has been implemented. National Apprenticeship Program, 100,000 Ghanaian youth are put into apprenticeship. No fee stress. TOR has been revived. Free SHS, we promised to give a dedicated fund to speak. 4.2 billion through Get Fund has been dedicated. These were the promises. So when you see here, in the face of all this, the fulfillment of all these promises, you tell us that we have not done anything. You have been economical with the truth.
My guest, Edem Agbana, who is speaking now, Dennis Miracle Sabuaje, Fred Janku, Dr. Kwabna Nyakuotu, and Senyor Hosi. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. All right, you're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform, and I wish that the background conversation was also projected, because you see the friendship that, you know, the people share behind the curtains. My guest in the studio, Senyor Hosi, convener, One Ghana Movement and trustee of the Ghana Coalition Against Galamsey. Dennis Miracle Sabuaji is Director of Communications, the Dr. Bawumia campaign team. These days, he has some specialty in cocoa issues, of course, because he has a cocoa farm, and then also Galamsey matters. We are going to go to Galamsey, and he's been telling the people around the table that they should fire the government for not solving the Galamsey matter. Fred Janku is development economist and associate professor at ISE at the University of Ghana. Dr. Kwabena Yako, too, is deputy secretary general of the Trades Union Congress of TUC, that's the TUC. And of course, Eric Edemagbana is MP Ketu North. Suppose he's the youngest MP to have now in the House, right?
Somebody.
You're older than somebody. It's trying to get some bragging rights. Okay, right.
One of my favorite people.
Right. A couple of your messages that you've brought in, let me share them with the rest of the world. Kwame Nketia says, Samson, please tell Senor that he's becoming a good and listening panelist. Politicians can't help Ghana. Only selfish professionals like him, they will help. Only selfish professionals and selfless leaders. Selfless professionals and selfless leaders, correct. Thank you very much. This one from, you didn't identify yourself, but you say that if a university offers admission, should that be the basis for the government to give you, the yet to be admitted student, the money? Can we consider the situation where the applicant receives the money and not attend the school? Let's think about this clearly. Well, what was the name of the policy? The name of the policy was No Fees Stress Program. And who was the target? The target was first year level 100 students in public tertiary institutions. What was the rationale? The rationale, first year students typically pay higher fees than continuing students. The policy was designed to cushion parents and students from this initial financial shock. Yeah. That's all there is about. We haven't said anything different.
Oh, we are saying.
Son of Kofi says, Samson must bring miracles back into the studio when the list of appointees at the presidency is released. Yes. Okay, count on us on that. Once my production team are aligned, he will return to the studio.
And get more people
okay, Manche Bruce, your message is a long one, but let me try. It says that brilliant submissions from Dennis so far. I tell you, if the US-Israel versus Iran war does not end soon, we are cooked as a country. The reason is that we depend largely on petroleum imports. I doubt if we have a considerable reserve of petroleum products as a country to stem the tide. What is government strategy to dealing with this debacle in the long term? Remember, the price of gold is dropping, the dollar is rising, there is work to do, not positions to occupy. The president and his team must stop the lamentations and get to work. Have they lamented? They should stop telling us what we already know. Manche Bruce, the second in Takrady. Thanks for that message. Yakubu Ibn Chambers says the NDC is caught up with the excesses of their desperate campaign promises. Well, they are getting advice. When I was listening to Dennis repeat that he's advising Edemagbana, they should tone down. I said, you can't get the advice from any better place than the NPP, because the promises, they made them in the hundreds. One this, one that, you know. So when they came in and it didn't work, they know how they suffered it. Ghanaians can only learn One thing from NDC, self-inflicted pressure from the unsuspecting Ghanaian masses who fell for their deceit. In the heat of desperation, you don't make promises. How do you turn around to tell Ghanaians in the face that the 24-hour economy policy is still under consideration and commencement? Samson, can I sue the NDC government for misleading and breaching the contractual agreement it entered with the Ghanaians? Yakubu Mohammed Akuka Chambers sent that from Wali Wali. Thank you for those messages. Edubuahin says that our governments should be honest with us. The public sector is overbloated, and any serious government will be laying off by now and pay the rest well. The current system we are running is unsustainable, and we will always be going back to the IMF intermittently. How can every senior public sector employee, immigration, police, military, fire service, prison service, etc., be driving V8 and drawing free fuel at the expense of the state? Fiscal discipline is key to economic management. Thanks for that as well, being blunt as it must come. And Gamel says that I will always say that these NDC, MPP know what to do to get Ghana in a better place to live. Why can't the government empower the private sector to have a larger capacity to employ more people than the government is trying to do everything by itself? For example, the Gokon Kitinkiti, why can't the government have one big private poultry farm and give them the money to employ more than, rather than these, doing this by itself? Okay, so Gamal, we need to understand the policy properly and how it is being implemented, and we may find that it may not be as direct, but there may be some intermediaries being engaged. Thank you very much for your messages. Now, we are going to the President's comments, which has been applauded, about admitting that NDC people are involved in the Galamsey. The question we ask is, and so what? If they are involved, what is the President doing? The program is brought to you by the Bank of Africa, strong as a group, close as a partner, MTN everywhere you go, Ashesi University, educating ethical and entrepreneur leaders for Africa, Robert & Sons Optical Services, a comprehensive eye care service provider for 33 plus years, My Way Insurance, dial *165# on MTN to join My Way today. Syntax Tanks is strong as stuff. Safari Valley Eco Park, bringing you closer to nature. Gold Board Jewelry, pure, precious, proudly Ghanaian. Malcolm, your #1 shopping destination. Waylead, your trusted home builder. Bethel Dental, the smile starts here. St. Thomas Eye Care, Eye Hospital, providing excellence in healthcare. And Kel Charcoal Toothpaste, happy smile. Now, let's listen to the President talk about Galamsey, how he's fighting it, and why it is difficult.
Illegal mining has eaten into the fabric of our society, and I must say that it is not only a menace to our society, but it has involved a circle of traditional rulers, political party appointees and everything. And so even when one party changes, those who were running some operation who were to one party will go to the next party and say, oh, now that you have come and take over this operation and let's share, and we too will be getting small. This is what we're doing. And so I don't kid myself that we don't have our own people involved. And the work of the NIMOS is not easy. they go to a community and the chiefs, the youth, and everybody come out and resist them. And so I didn't kid myself that we will be able to win that fight overnight. But we cannot relent. We must continue.
Right. So that's President Mahama there. The question many have been asking is, many civil society and well-meaning Ghanaians are applauding him for admitting at least that his people are involved. But beyond that, the question they are asking is, what is he doing? Maybe I start from Dennis today, at this point.
First of all, whoever applauds the president is completely being hypocritical. Let's not mince words. This is Galamsey we are discussing. Who is admitting what? Is he saying anything that he has just discovered and didn't know from the past? Or it is because now he is overwhelmed and there is nowhere to hide anymore? That is why he is patronizing everybody. And in any case, if you know them, why are they still doing it? Come on, we shouldn't do this to ourselves. Who are those CSOs that did that? I want their names. I want to have a conversation with them. That the president has come to admit something that all of us have always known and said it here severally. Even when we were in government, I said it, that then the opposition members were even involved in Galamsey. I said it on this your show, even when we were in government. He knew it. But in opposition, what was his solution? What was his proposal? Has he, at the time he was making this point, referenced the specific things he said he would do in the fight against Galamsey? Since he came to office, only one thing has been done anew since they took office. One. Nothing else they have done since they took office in the fight against Galamsey. They've done only one thing. The repeal of the LI. That's the only thing. Every other thing happening in the fight against Galamsey was in existence. That's a 7
NIMOS was not in existence.
It was there. Operation Vanguard was running. Go to your portal. Even on the 3rd of January, people were arrested in the forest by military people. I understand that, but NIMOS is a new creation. No, it's not. It's not. It's the same military people in the forest fighting Galamsey. What are you talking about? Isn't it the name change? Has the army been disbanded and a new one formed? So what are you talking about? Please, Galamsey is a very serious business. This is not what they promised us. Pick their manifesto. They were specific on the things they would do. The question is, Mr. President, whilst you are acknowledging what we've always known and told you to your face, what have you done about it? Sitting here, if I know that the beef that I left in my fridge last night was stolen by my son, I won't come and complain to my neighbor. I will deal with my son and make sure that tomorrow the beef is not stolen. Because it's the easiest thing to solve. So why are we still experiencing...
The Attorney General referenced or referred the NDC party, executives to Iyoko to be dealt with.
This is the first time we've seen that. In the previous government, wherein people in government are referenced, for which reason, even though they were referenced, it was used against the government. This is the first time. This is the first time. And it's been over a year. Have you heard anything on that?
Which people are you referring to in the previous government?
Because in the previous government,
we know Akonta mining, and the president sought to, clean it up.
He did not sought to. He was referenced for investigation. He was. He was. It's not sought to. He was. In fact, let me remind you, go and look at Abu Jinapon's letter on Akonta mining, where he emphatically acknowledged that there are certain areas that Akonta mining was having some activities whatsoever it says that they are not giving him some licenses for. So what are you talking about?
But the president cleared him on that.
He declared him on what?
He said Akonta mining was not doing...
No, he said as far as he knows, Akonta mining is a licensed mining firm. Is that not the fact?
No, he said he was not involved in that. Please, let's get it. This is that one there.
But have you caught Akonta mining involved in Galamsey?
He absorbed.
Have you identified Akonta mining involved in...
But what the president said then contradicted what the minister...
The evidence and the admissions by Abu Jinapo himself.
Please.
And we have put it before. We petitioned what's the name? The CID and the IG. What has been done?
Your words are not facts.
So why didn't you take it up? Why didn't you interrogate the facts?
Mr. President,
you didn't do anything about it.
So those petitions,
Mr. President,
those petitions have now led to...
You are absolutely wrong.
Have now led to be facing trial.
Abanga and the NDC national executives have been referred by the Attorney General to Yoko doesn't mean they are involved in Galamsey.
Oh no, there were facts.
No, please.
There were clear facts.
Which clear?
There were
Which
clear facts.
Oh.
The facts that
Who
were put.
established
The facts.
crime?
I'm not establishing crime. We reported crime. We asked for prosecution. What did you do about it? Did you ask for prosecution?
Has anybody been prosecuted in this government?
Of course. Who? What do you mean?
Any person.
No. We are talking about Kuntamani.
Please.
I'm not discussing NDC.
Prosecution is not conviction.
I'm not discussing what NDC. We're just referring to Kuntamani. And we are making a submission because as a coalition, we made a petition.
Okay. You have more work to do now. You have more work to do as a coalition than in the past. You've taken my time. Don't interrupt again. The point I'm making is that this admission by the president has always been known by everybody. The fact that you come and tell us that I know my people are involved, so we should clap for you for what? What have you done? What are you talking about? So the president says he knows that his people are involved, so it means what? Then the president is what? He's a Holy Ghost? Isn't that even easier for you to fix when you know the people? You've been in office for close to 14 months. Galamsey has escalated like never seen before. You are buying the gold from the same Galamseyers. You have provided a formal platform for the purchase of gold. The president himself said that about 60% or so of the gold that we are exporting are coming from small-scale miners. Minerals Commission has told us that close to 80% of small-scale mining activities are illegal mining. Go to TikTok. I've said this severally. We have close to 1.5 million followers on Galamsey TV. They protest against the government for reducing their price of gold that they buy from them. And the government responds by giving them bonuses. Listen, we can't play the ostrich in this matter. This government wrote on two major things to come to office. Galamsey was one. 2 weeks to elections. Senor Hosi and his friends were on the necks of a Kufuor to declare a state of emergency. This government benefited from Galamsey than everybody. You are in office. You're coming to tell us what? We should clap for you for knowing who was involved in Galamsey. Mr. President, spare us anything on the Kufuor. He's gone. He's done his bit. He's gone. Leave him alone. Deal with your guys, the people that you trusted. You should be having broken hearts right now. You should be disappointed today, knowing very well that you swore on your life that the Kufuor and his people were involved in Galamsey, and that when they leave office, you are going to get into office a bunch of people who will do what your heart desires, and they are failing you. You should be crying.
I've cried already.
We are talking about this. We are talking about the situation where we are talking about a situation where a very senior minister, Professor Frimpong Boateng, makes these disclosures about people in government who are complicit, and the government does practically nothing.
Perfect. Awesome. Hold it there. Perfect. You see the hypocrisy in all the people who are praising the president. When Frimpong Boateng made that disclosure, nobody said that, oh, at least somebody in government, a senior member in government, has acknowledged.
I did.
Oh,
government did.
I did. I beg you.
And we celebrate it today.
Oh, when you do that, you make me.
The problem was that Frimpong Boateng was attacked by you
government,
and that became the focus.
I beg you. Let me flow. So he came to make this disclosure, and that became the basis for you.
Yes.
To constantly use that as a reason to attack the government of being complicit in Galamsey. And you are telling me that the president comes to admit and he's not complicit. And I should babysit him and pat his back. Please, that will not happen. But the fact of the matter is that what Frimpong Manso said is even less of a worry than what the president has said, because this is coming from the president of the Republic of Ghana. The president himself, the last man standing, actually admits that his own people are involved in Galamsey. Hey, you should be running to the Jubilee House and looking for him and say, Mr. President, by tomorrow.
So you see something wrong with this. No. But you see practically absolutely nothing wrong with the president whose party regional chairman, has been indicted by the EPA working together with the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources.
In his time.
And then the president comes to say that the guy is not involved.
In order for you not to digress this conversation today. Yes. In order for you not to digress, in order for you not to digress this conversation today, there is everything wrong with that. Let's move on. Okay. Now we are here. Based on that, your disappointment in the former president's responses, you trusted with your life that you are going to get in these guys a group of persons who will come and fix it. They are doing worse. Now let me tell you where the worst is. The worst is that at least in the past, when they were robbing the state and killing out the future of our children, They have no formal platform to sell. This government is actually enabling Galamsey.
No.
When they open up, I don't like that when you say no.
That is not
what do you know that I don't know? What do I know?
But you know that's sort of a broad
It is not.
sweeping
It is not.
statement.
Please.
Because the gold board denies that it is buying gold from Galamsey.
It's a lie. It's a lie.
It's buying Galamsey gold.
Oh, can I please listen, Senor Hosi, Mr. President?
Yeah.
Don't let me make this point and you say it is not true. Listen, it is true. Which of the gold that the gold board has bought?
Yeah.
That he can tell where it is coming from. Apart from the ones that he's buying from the multinationals.
It can't.
So what are you talking about then?
Okay,
guys,
thank you.
Don't let us know. Oh, give me a signal, then I'll land.
You've done almost 10 minutes.
So signal me, then
nobody's going to get 10 minutes.
10 seconds and I land.
Okay.
I can't just be truncated like that. So nobody should ever say that it is a lie that the government is buying from the Galamseyers. It's a matter of fact. They say they are trying to work at it, but they haven't fixed it yet. The crux of the matter is that even the barest minimum of the promises the president made in his own manifesto, somewhere within his 120-day social contract, even those ones, he hasn't been able to fulfill them. Now that he knows, he had admitted finally that he knows those involved in the Galamsey, at least those outside his cabinet and his party he cannot control. But the ones within his party, he should go to Akwetia. They even want to mine in Akwetia Secondary School. They want to mine in the school, and the president knows who it is.
Really?
Yes. Go to Akokeri College. In the middle of the school, they are mining. Kwabin Secondary School, right in the school, they are mining. Abomosu STEM, right behind the dining hall, they are mining. Never before in the history of this country.
No, that's on you.
Never before in the history of this country, since 2010, that this illegal criminal mining started, have we seen such level of devastation at this height going on in this country? You can say whatever you want to say.
Sorry,
but you haven't seen it.
Yeah. No, I'll come to you. Senor.
No problem.
Relax. To come to you.
Dennis is right? Is he not? That the level at which groups, organizations like the one that you and I belong to,
so much good like this,
used to almost on a daily basis insist that Galamsey must stop. It's not being done anymore. Is it because there is some confidence that is being discovered in NIMOS? Because beyond NIMOS, nothing else is being done. Of course, Gold Board has a new law that it is working with, which includes traceability. They haven't done that yet. They are now working on the traceability to be able to cure the Galamsey gold.
Okay, so we lose the conversation when we mix the trading of the gold with the externalities, which we will call in economic terms, around the production of gold. Whether there's a gold board or there's no gold board, gold mined by Galamsey will be sold. All right? So gold board is just a trading thing, just to make sure at a worst case scenario, even if we experience externalities, we should be able to optimize the benefits through the trade. So there's actually nothing on the policy side. No, that's not it. I mean,
You're worried about the interruption?
Miracles. No, I'm not worried about the interruption. I think the good board construct was actually built on the policy initiated by the person you speak for. And it is a policy that would have to be maintained irrespective of who is going to be there. So it's not a problem. The problem has to do with the devastation from the production, the externalities there. Don't worry. I'm saying we have to separate the gold.
They are buying the gold from the.
It doesn't matter. If today, I would not allow gold made by Galamsey to just find its way out of this country to benefit some foreigners, and we as a country cannot even at a minimum optimize the monetary policy related benefits. That is not on. But let's carry on.
Nam Robber went to sell TV and he sells to you. And once you are giving
Senor, go on. It's your turn. We have very limited time.
Yes. Okay, very well. So to separate the conversation, what Gold Board has done, that construct is a necessary construct.
Absolutely.
It has helped create a balance in the loss. Absolutely. Otherwise, we'll be losing on two fronts: externalities on our environment, externalities on our legal framework and our law enforcement, and also having externalities on our trade. That is a no-no. So Gold Board, I commend Sami Jefi and his people. That's a policy that must be sustained, and that must continue. Now, the key issue on the production side, it is not the case that we've gone quiet. I think that right in this studio, the government felt maybe one of its biggest hits right from us. And that's when the presidency actually even called me and told us we were going to have, we should hold our guns. They were going to meet us. And they called this CSO thing in Jubilee House. We thought we were going to have a very strong platform where we're going to engage and come up with a structured plan on how to deal with this. We don't think we got the best out of that particular engagement. But we had great engagement from the part of the Lands Minister, Ama Kofi-Boa. He's been actively engaging us, working with us, and I think that's been productive. Have we made so much progress? I don't think we made adequate progress. Because there's a reality that for some of us, we are now facing. There's no way, when you look at those numbers today, at that 68% and of gold holding this economy, you look at the real socioeconomic issues around employment. If the boys working in that pit are the same kind of boys who are willing to still cross the desert, irrespective of whether Libyans will shoot them or not shoot them, will continue. People earning 3,000 cedis a week going to give up that thing, they will fight with any of our military forces. And the president was dead right when he spoke about how the communities themselves are rising against the government in this fight. So there's a need for us to relook the strategy. We went past a point of no return under the former government. We missed the opportunity. But again, they will also argue the constraints of their politics. Today we still have those constraints and it's even worse. So we have to come up with a different strategy going forward. Samson, very difficult.
When we say worse,
yes.
What is the data we are using?
Worse.
He has spoken about its worse. You also said it's
I'll
worse.
just start with. I'll just use as a rule of thumb your data you captured on the turbidity levels.
The water quality.
We ran from around 500 to what 14,500 or so, which may be 29 times the situation that we knew it. Now from 14,500, we are hitting what 94,000.
That was when? Have you checked now?
That was. I'm just saying
right.
that even if that was then, which was just maybe about October last year. Can you imagine where we are even today? So when I say that we've gotten worse, it's not.
It's true.
But if you look at it on a ratio basis, you can say the past moved quite quicker because from 500 to this about 29 times, 14 to 94 will be maybe about what 4 times or so. But please, we are not making that progress. So we have to get to the reality. Galamsey is not going anywhere.
Okay.
That is what I see. We have to find a way to correct the externalities around that. And these are my recommendations. In our little study, and I think that the Chamber of Mines is also getting to the same kind of policy position as it's important, Samson. I'm the lead Galamsey man on this table. Allow me, I beg you. This is it. Galamsey is not going anywhere. The youth will not let you go. The chiefs will not let it happen. The economy itself and government itself is struggling to want to even pay proper attention to it because there's a counter effect. Gold production goes low. They think that they'll have a certain broader macroeconomic problem. So politicians are also being funded by all these Galamsey people across the world. So there's no good with much traction.
And then
this is the way out. It is
gold.
inside. And this is the way. This is the way out. How do we rationalize what is going on? The Galamsey activity today is giving us a yield or a recovery of about 30%. Can we use technology to rather correct their ways so that we can move to what the large-scale recovery is, which is around 85 to 95%? That recovery can fund this. People can still do their work.
We are getting technology to clean the water.
Yes, it will help too much. It will do something, but that's not it. We need to regularize the conduct of the small-scale ASM, artisanal and small-scale mining activity. Let it be fully compliant. Support it with technology so that you as a government will get the gold you want for your economy. But at the same time, we get the people to start doing things properly so you don't have cyanide leaching.
Thank you.
So this is technology and policy must now be brought to balance it and we correct it and go on. But doing nothing today, Adam, it's not going to help anybody.
Yes,
the president has admitted.
At the point where
I commend the president for admitting and accountability is a first step towards correction.
Okay, thank you.
So,
yes.
Samson,
it's a critical step.
Samson, I think that it's important for all of us to understand. No, Dennis, we are talking about two leaders. Two leaders are on the table.
No, 2 leaders are not on the table.
President John Dramani Mahama.
No, you are wrong.
Who has admitted
and
that there are some people within
it is good.
His own political.
It is a start.
I know that.
I won't lie you.
There's also former President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, who for 8 years, as president of this republic, even when video evidence was submitted to him with some of his officials' involvement in Galamsey, he cleared them. And so the difference is wide.
So you are aware.
The difference is wide.
You know
today, Dennis,
he didn't know. You know, but he still can't fix.
The MPP does not have the moral right to even comment on Galamsey because we saw how devastating the Galamsey operations were under your government.
Step out and say
now, the question is that the president, Samson, beyond admitting that his people were involved, the big question we should ask is, what has this government done in the fight against Galamsey?
See it.
In our campaign, one of the major promises we made was to repeal the LI. That has been done. You need to applaud us for it. Again, in our campaign, we promised...
Repealed under pressure.
Whether there was pressure or no.
You amended the pressure from us.
It is your duty that when the politician makes a promise, you remind us, you give us the pressure to implement. So whether it was under pressure or not, the basic fact is that we have repealed it.
Pressure on you.
That's true. Senor, I beg you. Hold on.
As we speak.
Senor, you have done well today. So let's end on that.
As we speak, we promise to introduce alternative livelihood for young people engaged in
Dennis, people are also complaining about your interjections.
I was following my president. Apart from that, as we speak, 278 small-scale mining licenses have been revoked for irregularities. And these are some of the things that contributed. But you see, something, I understand the NPP, whenever Galamsey is mentioned, they become jittery. And for now, all that they are trying to do is to bring in gold board. But let me state on this platform that gold board does not buy gold from Galamseyers. And that fact must be known. On many occasions, even in Parliament, almost all committees, from public accounts, economy and budget, anytime gold board officials and BOG officials appear, the NPP puts this question. The right answers are provided, but they ignore the answers, jump on platforms like Dennis.
Because we don't have time. We can interrogate that later. We can interrogate that later, whether or not some of the gold they buy is coming from.
The point must be made. That gold board does not buy gold.
They don't even know where the gold
is coming from. Thank you.
They don't know where the gold is coming from.
But it's the gold Galamsey.
That's the question. They don't know where the gold is coming from. When it suits you, you tell us that the whole gold board idea is Baumia's idea. When you were doing the gold board,
who has spoken against gold board right now? Has anybody spoken against gold board today?
No, were you buying gold from Galamsey?
No, but what?
Thank you. Adam, thank you. Fred, briefly, and then Dr. Otu. Thank you, Adam. Dennis, thank you. Yes, Fred.
So I think Senor,
Fred, go on.
Senor has made an important point. There are three things that we are looking at here. And in January, we went on a field visit to Galamsey areas. And when I came back, I came to a conclusion that we cannot stop Galamsey with the current arrangements we have. And I wrote a blog, and because of time,
we cannot stop Galamsey.
We cannot stop
with the current arrangement of NIMOS.
So let me just read briefly because of time. So after our field visit, I reached a firm conclusion. State policing alone will not solve Galamsey. Why? Because enforcement itself has become part of the mining economy.
Exactly.
We were repeatedly told that many security officers use operations as opportunities for extortion. One miner said to us, "We are no longer afraid. We only prepare so that when they come, they take the money and go."
That's not new.
During the community meeting, a miner received a call. The people have come, he was told. He stood up and said, "I'm going to sort them out and return." Even more disturbing, we were told that individuals who are not part of official task forces now visit sites to collect something small for the road. Some have proposed a state of emergency in mining areas. Perhaps it could help. But based on what we saw, it may simply expand the same rent-seeking networks. Galamsey is not just an enforcement failure, it is a governance failure. Until corruption, incentives, and neglect are confronted, no number of soldiers will win the war.
Thank you.
Finally, the community leaders gave us a message to take along to Accra. They said, tell them in Accra, they only make noise on radio and TV. No one can stop Galamsey.
Right. So what the president said, we have heard that Anyenini Otunfo said to say the same thing. Chiefs are involved, these people are involved. So it just sound bites we have been hearing, right?
Exactly. So
I remember you were here in this studio.
Actual fact, we in October last year took a trip to Konyako, where the water turbidity level had gone to 94,000 thereabout. We came to Enum Apepemu, and we came to Chebi. In fact, we were told about an MPP parliamentary candidate who was holding the license, but soon as MPP lost the election, he collaborated with the NDC chairman for Akwatia. Samson, let us not say that this fight is lost and you cannot do anything about it.
Okay.
Let's begin from somewhere. We know there are forest reserves and we know there are water bodies. I think we were told somewhere last year that government had declared all forest reserves and water bodies security zones. And they were stationing people. In fact, it even came up in our own negotiations that the finance minister says that he needs money to station security people 24/7 in these areas. What has happened to those promises?
We reclaimed 9 of the red zones.
At the point
that was a long time ago.
The point
that was a long time.
Having come to this realization, I am urging the president to at least ensure that
you have lost more right now. You don't get
I'm urging the president.
Okay.
I'm urging the president to at least ensure that nobody mines in a forest reserve, that nobody mines in a river body. They can do the Galamsey mining in other areas, but not those 2 areas. I think we should not. I mean, I was very surprised sitting in front of the president and the comments that came from him. It sounds like we are throwing our hands in air. It shouldn't come to that point because the effects of Galamsey is too dire for the present and the future of this country. And the president must lead on it in stopping it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My office, as always, is by Habil Skoter. You can reach them on 0200 84 1988, 0200 84 1988. You can find them on their social media handles. They give you the very best of kaftans that you want. My guests have been Eric Edemagbana, MP Ketu North, Dr. Kwabna Nyako Otu, Deputy Secretary General, Trades Union Congress, Fred Janku is Development Economist and Associate Professor at ISE, University of Ghana, Dennis Miracle Sabwaje is Director of Communications, the Dr. Baumia Campaign, and Senyo Hosi is Convener One Ghana Movement and Trustee of the Ghana Coalition Against Galamsey. I'm Samson Lardy Anyenini. Have a good afternoon. Tomorrow at 2 p.m., my favorite show, Mama V Owusu-Abuaje, will be steering the discussion on technology-facilitated gender-based violence. And we have great guests who are coming from the Harvard University and also from Oxford, and also Sheila Minka Premo. Have a good afternoon.